Okay, this webinar is being audio recorded. And so welcome to San Mateo County's Coastside Design Review Committee meeting. The Design Review Committee, as established in the zoning regulations, is appointed by the Board of Supervisors. Today is Thursday, July 14th, 2022. This hearing consists of one project. The meeting is being audio recorded. There are two opportunities for the public to speak, including the oral communication for matters not on agenda and a separate public comment session for each project on this agenda. Please review the agenda to identify which item you wish to speak on and the time of that item. The chair will open public comment session during the public comment period, and for each item on the regular agenda, I will first read comments received from the public before the meeting into the record. Then I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on the agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press star 9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raise hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of meeting for agenda item that's later in this meeting. When you hear your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number called, I will prompt you to unmute your account and inform you that you may begin speaking. I will then ask you to state your name, address, email address for the record. For those joining by phone, pressing star 6 will mute or unmute your microphone. The Design Review Committee decision for item 1, if any, will be a recommendation regarding project compliance and will not the final decision on the project, the decision of which will take place at a later date. Depending on the scale and the scope of changes, continued projects may be placed on the next month agenda if revisions are submitted to the county by the end of the business day, Friday, July 25th, 2022. Applicants should note that continuance letters may not be available by that date and are encouraged to take notes of the committee's feedback. The next Coastside Design Review Committee meeting will be held on August 11th, 2022. And item 1 of this agenda is the roll call. Katie Kostyuk.
Present.
Rebecca Captain.
Present.
Beverly Garrity.
Yes, present.
Doug Machado. Not present. And I just saw John Statman just joined us, so I have promoted Mr. John Statman as a panelist. Mark Stegmeyer.
Present.
Linda Patterson.
I am here. I was just getting set up. I wanted to let you know.
Okay, the last one on the list is John Statman.
Yes, here.
Okay, thank you. With that, I turn it over to the chair.
Okay, the first thing I'll do, Mark, prompting you. The first thing I'll do is read the resolution, which is written at the beginning of the chair report. AB 361 resolution finding that as a result of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic, state of emergency declared by Governor Newsom, meeting in person for meetings of the Coastside Design Review Committee would present imminent risks to the health or safety of attendees. Hence, we will continue to have Zoom Coastside Design Review meetings. That's a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
We actually have to do a roll call. vote on
Second.
that.
A second.
And Glenn will do a roll call.
I'll do a roll call. Katie Kostyuk,
Yes.
Rebecca Captain,
Yes.
Beverly Garrity,
Yes.
Mark Stegmeyer,
No.
John Statman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll continue on with the chair report. This is my last chair report. And then the next item on the agenda is the nomination of a new Coastside Design Review Committee CDRC chairperson. It'll be a quick review. It's just basically a recap of last week, minor minor edits. Again, the reiteration of the demonstration of scale and story polls and the document we need to reference. Glenn, it may be helpful if we distribute that document. Again, I got some inquiries this week on how to interpret that document. So it may be helpful if you distribute that document to committee again, since that's what we need to be using now for the foreseeable future. Is that okay?
So you are referring to,
The-
which document? Can you please say it again, please?
The document in the chair report that we need to reference for the demonstration of scale or story polls.
Okay, so regarding that, I think last time after CDRC meeting, I sent out email with the link to the demonstration of scale policy. And
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. I can resend it if
I'm sorry.
needed. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a web link to the document, which is available on our website. And just to make sure everyone has it, I will resend it this time again.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. And maybe
Did you
after
all
the-
receive it?
I don't know.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think it was sent out actually during the hearing, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, during or after the hearing. But
Oh,
I will
okay.
send it again, and please check your spam box later
Okay.
today, and I should be able to find it. If not, then just send me an email, and now I can resend it just to make
All
sure. that
right,
you
so
have it.
there is that link in there. I'm not sure if that is, if you want to do a quick check on the link in the chair report, just to see if that's the appropriate document, I can just leave that link in there, Glenn.
Okay, I'm going to I just click on this link, and I'll make sure that's the right document.
Sure, and I'll just continue on. Design standards update, we're continuing to do that. Today, it'll be 2 hours in duration. The CDRC positions, same, as you know, Doug was appointed to the El Granada rep position, and the El Granada alt rep is open. Nominations for chairperson are in process, and we'll discuss that after this segment on the agenda. CDRC quorum and project review subcommittee, we have a new articulation of what happens in the scenario where there's no community representative, main or alternate, due to the absence of a community rep. For a 3-person voting group or for a 2-person quorum, the nearest residing community rep from another community could fill the community rep spot specifically. So that apparently handles all combinations of issues. Under new residential construction, let's see. Glenn, you were just looking to verify if there is still a cap for the coastal zone ADUs and to get a current coastal zone ADU total count. Oh, you also suggested that the 2021 numbers, you and Camille, were to be reviewed. Any progress on that?
Yeah, so regarding that, we're working on refining the numbers, and now one thing we can confirm that is currently we are way under the limit of 40. And now we are just working on refining the numbers, and now we are keep tracking of the building permit issued for the different kind of residential units. So that's where we're at right now.
Beverly, I have a question that goes back a little bit before my time, but I remember that Melanie used to be the one that tracked all of this, right?
Well, I'll say yes for now, but I think she might have volunteered but didn't track it.
Okay, I think I remember her having trouble being able to look things up, and she was having to literally just like look up APN numbers or permit numbers to try to
Right.
find it.
Lisa was looking up and counting, so we
Yeah,
did.
so what I was wondering, since it's always been, quantified since I've been on the committee, why is that something that the CDRC is doing or tracking?
We're not tracking. We were curious about the counts at one point.
Oh, okay. Is that something that everybody feels is still valid and relevant and, worth doing, especially since you're passing the torch for the chair. I'm just kind of curious if that should still be something that we want to spend time working on.
So the reason why we as CDRC were interested in the beginning was to make sure we weren't exceeding the annual limitations.
With the CDRC approvals?
Yes, with projects coming through CDRC.
Well, I guess,
That wouldn't be applicable because it only applies to building permits. and
yeah, like we don't know
design-
how long it would take to go to permitting. So that's why I kind of wanted to see if this is something that we should be, you know, investing our time in.
I mean, I think it's good background information. You know, just to make sure that the county is tracking it, and, you know, you guys can be assured that we are. And we're refining our tools. Actually, we found that there were some errors in our tracking tools. So we're making those improvements. So it's just good to know. And I think it's okay to ask for an update every now and then, but it's not anything that the CDRC has like direct authority over. It should not impact your ability to make, you know, recommendations or decisions at all.
No,
Because DR permits are subject to a 5-year expiration, and it's like, you know, who knows when the building permit will be issued anyway. So it's just kind of good, maybe background information.
mhm,
One thing that I think is maybe helpful, since we have the numbers, is while we are trying to fill vacant positions, it might be able to give people an idea of roughly how many projects might come before the committee a year, so that they have an idea of how much of a commitment they're making.
right, it did, and I did incorporate it into the presentation that I gave to the MCC.
Yeah, so I think that might be helpful for people who are considering, if we can actually find some people that are considering to join. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to know the background of why we started tracking it, and if it's something that we should continue doing.
Yes, we noticed an uptick in the number of projects coming through, and we were wondering if there were caps or limits and how they were being tracked. And
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
That's helpful.
Beverly, though, I think Beverly and whoever our next chair is going to be, I think it's good just to kind of leave it up to staff to track on that note, because I do agree with
Mhm.
Katie that it's not something that we need sort of like an updated number at every CDRC meeting.
no, we
so-
didn't need an updated number. We were just trying to clarify that one question on the ADUs, and that's why it kept showing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't think we're gonna make a commitment to give you a quantitative number every meeting, but we'll let you know when we get close to that limit, just for your information.
And then Camille, did you get an answer about whether or not the ADUs are included in the cap?
I think we answered this question last time. It was pretty clear. It's basically once we hit the limit, the director would need to make a decision as to whether to exclude the ADUs and the affordable housing units. So LCP policy, I forget the exact policy number, but it basically says that the director can exclude affordable housing units and ADUs once the 40, it's like not only does first off, for the year, we have to reach 40. And then I believe there's like an average over 3 years that we have to look at that becomes the limit. And then we can, at that time, if we decide we're over or like right at the threshold of 40, then we can start to exclude the ADUs and the affordable housing units.
Okay, yeah, so Mark, what I'm hearing is that section can probably be deleted.
Yeah, or we can keep track of it as like sort of a percentage, or just just leave it in there and
Well,
Kind of
it's in
don't
the
have to-
archives.
Right.
It's in the
Yeah,
archives
okay.
at that point, yeah.
very good.
Okay, planning inspection requests, just the status of how to file a complaint, or where to file the complaint, and the comment regarding how your name is protected, since you have to fill in that block in the application. All right, that's it for this chair report. I'd like to move on to the nomination of a new CDRC chairperson. And I'd like to renominate Mark Stegmeyer. Mark's been living on the coast side for decades. He's been building on the coast side for almost that long. Since when, Mark?
86.
1986, is familiar with all the coastside neighborhoods, process and procedure, and has expressed some interest in filling the CDRC chairperson position. So I nominate Mark
I'll
Stegmeyer.
second that.
And I should take a roll call at this point, right?
I don't know if it's something we vote on or not, but I'll still second it. Thank you. Mark.
It is something we vote on. There can be a comment period if anyone needs to comment or ask questions.
I third that.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
we
And we
can
just wanted to
vote
thank
on
you,
it.
Mark, for being willing to step up for that, because I know that, we're all really busy in our lives, and we appreciate you taking the torch and carrying on all the hard work that Beverly's been doing for us. And thank you, Beverly, for doing that for so long as well, and for guiding our committee, and all of your attention to detail and the history that you bring along with you on the committee as well. So thank you both.
Yeah, so Mark has quite a bit of history. He was involved in the early years of the standards committee. And here he is working, he'll be working through the next iteration. So that's a very valuable experience as well. So shall we bring it to a vote?
Okay, so I will take a roll call here. Katie Kostick,
Yes.
Rebecca Ketkin,
Yes.
Beverly Garrity,
Yes.
John Statman.
Yes,
Okay, Mark, you're the chair. You're the chair for the CDRC now.
So
Mark, you don't get to vote.
No.
I'm going to do a little bit of guidance here, just for this last meeting. You might want to step in, Mark, and open up. The next thing to do for the chairperson is to open up the meeting for oral communication from the public. So that's,
Okay, so Camille's gonna lead us through the oral communication of talking about our standards again.
no, the oral communication is input from the public on issues other than the project reviews. And then after that, we'll do the design review update. So it's the item on the agenda just after the nomination of the CDRC.
I have to be looking at the agenda.
Yeah, that'll make it even clearer.
Yeah, once you open public comment, and now read instruction for everyone on this call, and now also to the public who wish to speak on any items that are not on the agenda.
Okay, so I would like to open it up to public comment.
Okay, so per the chair, we're now opening public comments for oral communications for matters not on the agenda. If your hand is raised, your name will be called for this item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise and unraise your hand. Press *6. We'll unmute or mute your microphone once you're given permission to speak. There's no raised hand. I don't see raised hands right now. So for those on Zoom, are there any other person who wish to speak? If so, I will provide a few more seconds in case there are others who would like to raise their hand to speak on this item. Okay, Chair, Mark, there are no more raised hands. Please indicate if you would like to close public comment section.
I would like to close public conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and now we go on to the discussion. It would be 4 minutes from now for Camille to lead the discussion of the CDRC design review update. So should we take a 3-minute break, Glenn?
Okay, we can take a 4-minute break, and we'll return at 2 o'clock. Then now we can start the design review update discussion at that time.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Thank you, Bev.
Yeah.
So we're replacing one kind of.
Did we just start
Yeah.
recording?
You're replacing one. You're
I'm just gonna
replacing
say
two, and
replace one with this.
So the last part that where it says add, I could see that being in number 3.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll do the numbering later. I don't want to
Yeah.
bother formatting. We're not formatting today.
Yeah.
This is just content stuff. So I'll judge it later. I don't want to waste our precious time on that.
Yeah. Mhm.
So moving on to openings. Select windows and doors that are compatible with the dominant types. And John Stedman, speak up. Is John Stedman on this call still?
Yeah, he is. He's
Okay.
a little husky.
I am.
Okay, good. John,
Oh.
we want to hear from you. And you're not often at our meetings, so I want to hear from you.
Well, I've had a complicated past several months, and it seems like I've been absent. I have been reading everything.
Okay.
Apologies for not being at the meetings, but it's
No, it's
been
okay.
it's
No.
been complex. But
I just want to invite you to,
well, I have a lot of thoughts. I mean, I when speaking about similar architectural styles, I was thinking about, the first house my parents bought. I mean, we got here in 66. They bought a new house in 72, which I think everyone will recognize. It was the green octagon on 6th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a few of those kicked around, but behind us was an old house from the 20s that the Van Olens lived in, the old school, Mr. Gilligan, the Stones house out in the corner. There was a Moyer and Green across the street. It was really eclectic.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of liked that about the coast, that you just have that eclectic kind of feel. And I remember when the planned neighborhoods were built, and that felt not in keeping with the coast to me. So my personal opinion about that, just to throw it in, is I would not like to see anything that limited a person from at least proposing something different in one of those areas.
Yeah.
And if the neighbors were all in favor and we crafted something that didn't allow it, I think that would be an injustice.
That's good. And I think this section allows for that, although it does say it requires kind of like use of similar materials and shapes to like echo what they see in the neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, so that it's not fully out of place. I mean, you have, but anyway, I can see there's still some latitude here, like, oh, maybe use of compatible. Maybe we can use the word compatible again, instead of like exact, it has to be the same green as in that weird building. You know what I mean?
Right. A nod. Something that,
Complementary.
complimentary or
I think compatible is
Compatible.
the definition of compatible is just harmonious. It's not same.
How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good point. Are we ready to move to openings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Select windows and doors that are compatible with the dominant types on the house and in the neighborhood. When assessing compatibility, consider the size and proportions of the openings, materials, and style or detailing. Assessing compatibility, consider the size and proportions. Okay. When designing and placing windows and doors, consider their location, size, and proportions and how they may relate to adjacent buildings. Walls broken by proportioned patterns of windows are encouraged where neighbors' privacies can be protected. Wow, that's a lot.
I keep trying to scroll on your screen when it's not my screen.
Oh, you want me to make it bigger? Is that what you want?
No, I just wanted to see those little bits.
Oh, the
this and not
little-
this diagram.
Yeah, this is pretty bad.
What does it say under not this?
Oh, these second story windows are of different shape and proportions and material than the original first story and do not appear compatible.
Okay, so one thing that I just want to throw out there that is a constant rub for me as an architect is because all of this is talking about windows in relation to either the existing first floor or to other homes, but not in relation to the other windows on that home. And that's a big beef for me because we see windows that are all over the place. Sometimes there's no alignment, there's no similarity. We'll have like casements, sliding windows, fixed windows, and, you know, and like all sorts of different things. And there's no compatibility or cohesive approach.
Language there where I think Camille was just hovering her mouse. I totally agree with you. But dominant types on the house
On the house.
and in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so, but
Maybe
it's,
he wants to be clear, like, about a unified.
Do windows
approach
need to
kind of
align?
I don't think that they always need to align, but when they're slightly out of alignment, or, you know, we see windows where, and maybe it's something that they'll end up cleaning up when they go to the permit stage and it doesn't get scrutinized to that level that it's not matching the planning drawing. But we see windows where the head heights are all over the place. Or, you know, there's 3 stories high and it's the same window 3 times, but they're all slightly out of alignment. But we've also seen projects where there's every single kind of window is represented there, and it's very confusing. It doesn't have any cohesion to the design.
They can relate to each other.
Yeah.
Why don't we just add the word alignment? Consider their location, alignment, placement,
style.
or, you know, whatever word can cover that.
Well, so number 2 is starting to touch on it. It's when designing and
Mhm.
placing windows and doors, consider their
Right.
location, size, I would say proportion and alignment, and how they may relate to, but I would like for that to say something about in the composition of that building facade.
Mhm.
Yeah. Proportions.
Oh,
And
when
alignment.
designing, and. Right.
And alignment, and then you said, and how they relate.
Be relative to one
adjacent
another?
To relate to, the existing windows.
Well, I
Windows?
would say in relation to the composition of that building facade.
Right, yeah, like in relation to the of the facade, or in relation to.
Yeah,
And adjacent buildings.
And
And-
buildings.
Yeah.
Adjacent buildings matters, I guess.
Well, that's why I'm like,
Privacy.
maybe there should be a number 3 that relates to, or 1 or 3 relating to the adjacent buildings, which would be in relation to the design, but also the privacy, the placement of the windows.
Yeah, okay, move adjacent building. Compatibility to separate point.
And Camille, if I could pipe in on that, I mean, there have been a number of times, you know, with the narrow lots here, it's often difficult to really address that satisfactorily. And I don't know if we add the option so people know it's an option of using some sort of obscure glass that still lets the light through but doesn't create a privacy issue, because that always comes up later. If people knew it up front, maybe we wouldn't have quite as much contention on that.
That's a good point.
It is, but do we have a separate section on privacy where we might have some of this language?
Yeah, but this has to do with windows, and I think there's the other thing had to do with like where the second story windows like face into each other. But
Mhm.
this really does have to do with the neighbor's privacy is protected.
Yeah,
pattern
like the
windows.
placement
And I
of the
think,
window.
John, are you talking about like where you like big windows face a vacant lot and then the vacant lot gets developed type of thing?
Exactly. And if you've got, you know, it's hard to manage or to design around that. Sometimes it's almost impossible. And a couple times on projects, I have, you know, ordered those glass, you know, ordered frosted glass or whatever, you know, privacy glass basically on the new project to allow the light in without having the, you know, let's see what we're each eating for breakfast kind of situation, which I think is what people are trying to avoid generally.
I think what happens though, like, I think it was one of your projects, John, and not to be too specific, but like there was a developer, we'll just leave it at that. Developer who built right next to a vacant lot, and they planned all their windows facing the vacant lot. And of course the vacant lot owner was notified, but didn't say anything and didn't object because they just don't care because they're not around or something, and they're not planning to develop soon. But there was, because it was vacant, I think the CRC may have treated it like there is no privacy issue, but there will be in the future. And
Right.
that should be considered. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that should be considered if there is vacant property. I hadn't quite said it that way, but that's an excellent point, Camille. I think that's happened to a number of people that I know, homeowners, builders, happens quite a lot. But what I was saying is when you come into an infill lot situation, and say there's a 2-story house on both sides of you that was designed and has, windows wherever they put them at that time, to come in and design around windows on both sides of a building and not have some sort of overlap where you're not going to be able to look into each other's bedrooms or kitchens or whatever is really a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
And there have been a number of times where I have addressed that. It's come up, and it's come up and been addressed with, some sort of obscure glass, rain glass or frosted glass. I did glass block one time, with glass block windows one time. I'm just, it's a decent way to kind of mitigate privacy without, really having to, because, you think about the field of view out of a window. If you look at if you sit at the window and look 45 degrees each way, where could you put a window on a house? Anywhere.
Yeah.
You potentially could look in everywhere. So it just matters like, okay, where does that window line up? I mean, I think if we gave people a little bit of an option up front to think outside the box a little bit, say, okay, we're going to do these windows here, but we'll propose like a white laminated glass.
Yeah.
So
Or like, or maybe clear view. I mean,
clear view,
sorry.
something.
Yeah. Right.
Something like that. Just because what happens, what I notice is people get into the meeting and then that comes up. And then it's it's another issue that takes 30 minutes to talk about. And if we can kind of give people the knowledge and the thought process to avoid some of that, I think it would be a good thing.
Yeah, got it. So that's all there. I think the second story window thing is addressed later, actually, where like there's a picture showing 2 windows facing into each other. No, I'm not able to find it. Let's see where that is. Where's that drawing? Tell me if you guys see it. Did we already do it?
I wonder if it's under siding. I don't know why I can't say that. Whenever I say siding, it sounds like I'm saying like the siding on a house instead of the siding. Siding. I feel like I just learned English.
We did this. So John, this is the whole second story windows facing each other situation where you like offset the windows.
Right.
These are offset and obscure glass. Hey, it even says that. In landscaping.
Oh,
so,
there it is right there.
Yeah. So that's more about that's more about like the relation to window to window, like across property lines. But this one is just more of like the window patterns of the new building. Like kind of the window pattern, the overall window design.
Right. So do you think that it's helpful in sections like this where we have some sort like that where there's obvious overlap to say refer to this section for this and this section for this, and keep pointing them back at the earlier sections that they might not be looking at anymore because they already figured out the placement of the building?
Yeah.
Well, in reading, privacy of adjoining vacant lots should be considered. With just going over what you just showed me, Camille, isn't that redundant?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe this should be in that section.
Yeah.
So, and this is okay. This is what we're meant to do, is like, because there are definite overlaps.
I also wanted to kind of look at our notes from when we did this section before. They consider requiring project plans that
capture the location of adjacent windows so privacy can be evaluated without to community attention. Is this something that can be captured by the surveyor? Usually
I know that this is required for Palo Alto and
is it the surveyor?
Mellow Park.
I'm gonna say or designer. I'm gonna say designer because surveyor sounds expensive to me. Window locations could be approximate. Consider engagement with adjacent neighbors early in the process to locate. Yeah, that sounds right. And this is really the applicant should consider.
Mhm.
So that's in there.
What is this section called? Can you scroll up a bit? Privacy. Okay.
Privacy.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, we could probably just add that to that blue box at the bottom as another privacy thing, right?
This.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe at the bottom. Huh?
Yeah, I think at the bottom is good.
Privacy, scrolling back. So this is the privacy section.
I think it's also probably good to reiterate in this section that the windows should relate to the architectural style that is selected for the home.
It says.
So you're looking at that picture?
I just keep thinking of a project that we saw
Yeah.
recently that was trying to be like prairie style, and none of the details and articulation actually said that. And when we asked what the style was they were going for, then we were like, oh, now we know how to help you with guiding some recommendations. But you know, I think that like I would hope that people would start with, here's the architectural style that I'm drawn to.
Yeah,
And
I
then
would go
design to
right
that.
up to point 1 in the very beginning. Select windows and doors that are compatible with the dominant,
I would say the dominant
architectural style
of
and dominant.
the house.
Yeah. mhm.
Yeah.
Does this make sense in relation to the composition of the building facade and architectural style, selected architectural style? Is that what you mean?
Well, one of them is about proportion. Well, I mean, so I would say that, yeah, I guess. I mean, alignment is one thing. I think alignments are probably important for any architectural style, but the proportions and the style of the window are more related to the architecture, I think.
So
Windows and doors. Yeah.
composition of windows and doors compatible where you are, Camille, composition of windows and doors compatible with, yeah, building facade and selected architectural.
So
style.
in addition to the selection, is that what the difference is? Selection and composition? Is that what you mean? Selection and composition.
I think we're trying to combine two things and it's
Yeah.
making it confusing.
Of windows and doors should be.
Yeah, so one thing is like I would say the alignment and placement.
Alignment and placement. So composition is alignment and placement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Isn't what you're trying to get at, Katie, just to go beyond like, not just compatible with the dominant types of the house, but
the composition is what I was
Right.
wanting. Yeah, like
harmoniously
composition should be
composed.
more at the end of that sentence, I think.
Composition should be at the end.
Yeah, if I
Right.
can pipe in,
Just do it.
looking at the do this and not this, to me, that's clearly referencing remodels where people come in, and I mean, I think we
Yeah.
all see that, where people come in and do an addition that looks nothing like the other, the rest of the house. And I think that's what that's really talking about.
That's
Mhm.
This,
actually
to
talking
me-
about new build also, John.
Maybe
Right,
we
I
should
know
actually
we're talking about new
differentiate
build, but
between the two.
my point was going to be, I think when we start limiting, like somebody brings in a prairie style, ostensibly a prairie style house, and we're going to insist that they use prairie style windows. If it's consistent, if they use a consistent window that isn't necessarily prairie style, and the project looks good.
It says compatible. It doesn't say consistent.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's, it could be modern prairie. It's just, yeah.
Right. I just want to make sure that we're not inadvertently crafting something that is, creatively limiting for someone that's trying to step out of the box a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's why, we're trying to use compatible instead of consistent to allow for a little flexibility.
So the section that you're working on right now, that one I view as basically composition and alignment. Which
Composition, should I just use those words, not selection?
Alignment placement seemed clear.
Selection, alignment, and placement. Does that work? Just tell me how it should read. and I'll take it.
yeah,
I think selection was number 1.
Yes, This is all about selection.
Yeah, well, selection was number
No,
one.
I think selection is number one, placement is number two.
Alignment and
Oh.
placement is number two.
Yeah. So this one isn't really about, it can be about the architectural style, but it's more about like the composition of that one facade, because we'll look at one elevation where nothing makes sense. And it's like the Winchester Mystery House. And it doesn't matter what the architectural style is, because there's not really, you know, unless you were just kind of making up a really creative architectural style where it was like a patchwork of windows, you know, most of the time there's going to be some kind of a composition to the placement. They're going to have similar window head heights, or, you know, if you've got 3 bathrooms that are stacking and the windows are all slightly off from each floor, like that, you know, seems like something that should be paid attention to.
Yeah. Okay, so I separated them. So this is one. And then this is 2, alignment and placement.
So I don't think we need building facade in number 1.
Right.
With the selected.
So
Yes.
with that one, we were saying the selection of windows and doors should be compatible with the selected architectural style
Okay.
and the neighborhood, right? Were we still thinking it should?
See, I don't think we need to put in "and the neighborhood" really.
I don't
because
necessarily either.
I-
We're only talking about windows and doors. I mean,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we can lose and the neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay. And then let's see, alignment and placement of windows should be.
Okay, wait,
compatible
wait,
with
wait. Remove and in the. Okay.
I mean, I would just take it out, the parentheses, because we're basically rewriting section 1, right?
Oh, okay. Just replace section 1 with.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we leave, consider the size, proportions of the openings, materials, and style or detailing? I think it's worth thinking that, you know, prompting to think that through when trying to.
I think that
achieve-
might be helpful, because that might
Yeah.
help sort of specify how to make it compatible for people
Right.
who aren't.
So
Aren't
just
as familiar.
replace
The first half of it.
section before semicolon.
Mm-hmm. Is there a semicolon there?
Yeah, there's.
Yeah.
there's semicolon. Okay, good. And then how is number 2 reading?
Let's see, I would maybe say alignment and placement of windows and doors should, I wanted to say something about, so it should create cohesion, and I want, my words are failing me, but
Be
some,
cohesive.
yeah, and that's where we were thinking the composition of that building facade.
Should create cohesion.
In parentheses, don't turn in an ugly project.
And be compatible with building facade and select architectural style. Or no?
Or just create cohesion with building facade and be compatible with architectural style.
Or with other openings though? Are you talking about other openings? Or are you talking about the style or cohesion with
I
what?
think other openings. like,
Other openings,
Yeah.
yeah,
the openings should like relate to each other. in a
Yeah.
harmony.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
So that's
Oh, well,
this.
that's clear, Rebecca.
So this is this though. So I think this is windows don't always need to align, but should be harmonious, cohesive, and
Yes,
organized.
yes,
Yeah, that's good.
Is that
yes.
just in addition?
Yeah,
yes.
I would say in
Okay, both of
addition.
those? Okay, got it. So I'm deleting this.
Can we use harmony one of those times instead of cohesion twice? Can we say should be harmonious and, oh no, you have both words, sorry,
I had cohesion twice, but
okay. yeah.
so good. So we're keeping the move adjacent building compatibility to a separate point. Okay, so we're gonna make that into a separate point. That's fine. That's obvious, I think. And then I think we can delete this because we already talked about alignment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Okay. Fabulous. Moving on, and we definitely want to keep these. These are really great, right? These
yeah, I would add a
Go a
note
long
to
way.
say maybe it might be worthwhile for these drawings to become more diagrammatic.
what
Less
is that?
shaded,
The only
Less-
reason I'm saying
less
that is,
realistic.
Yeah, well, I know that one of the gripes that I've heard about this guideline from the start is that it guides people in a craftsman direction. And if the examples that we have are only craftsmen, then it kind of reinforces that. So I would say have them either be more diagrammatic or show more than one example of an architectural style.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
my own house looks like that, and I'm really sick of looking at it, so.
Yeah, this is like all the
The
corbels
top
and
one,
stuff.
not the bottom one.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Okay, entries. You ready to move to entries?
Yeah.
Okay, front doors. Design front entries on a scale compatible with other features of the house to maintain a residential rather than institutional or commercial appearance. Interesting. Front porches. Where front porches are a part of the neighborhood pattern, a new house or new entry should consider including this feature similar in size and proportion to other homes in the neighborhood. Does
I actually don't have any changes here.
really, you think just because everyone else has a front porch that you should have a front porch?
No, but it says where front porches, a new house should consider including the feature, but it's not saying that you have to.
No, but it's, I mean, why put it in here?
Yeah, that's true. I do agree that I like for the front door and the entry to have more of a residential scale and relate, compatible with the other features of that house. I think that's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
That we don't really say anything about wayfinding, and I don't know if anybody else thinks that that's valuable, but for me, an entry is a form of wayfinding. And, for instance, not to call out a specific project, Rebecca, but I know the project that you had recently, there was confusion about which door was the front door.
Right.
And that's that sort of entry wayfinding thing, right?
Mhm.
Is that important? I mean, is that for the mailman? You know what I mean? Like, who are we talking about? Like, if they know where their front door is, is it
Well,
important that everyone should be communicated clearly to
I
everybody?
think the front door wants to signify, yeah.
It's
It's kind
important
of one of the pillars, no pun intended, of architecture is like using
in
it for
architectural
wayfinding.
design, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Cause, you know how like on ranchers, sometimes the front door isn't like facing the street, it's on like a sidewall
Mhm.
and you
Right.
kind of approach from the side. I like those personally, cause it kind of shields the front door a little bit. So, but it's like bad for wayfinding because you can't really see it,
No, I mean, you can have
Well,
a
you
side
can,
entry.
you can be directed to it in other ways.
Yeah, through the
Wayfinding.
path and stuff like that. Okay, so maybe I'll add, let's see, design front entries on a scale compatible. So then maybe just as a separate point.
yeah, I would say a separate point could say something like, consider the architecture of the entry being pronounced as a form of wayfinding. And then you could say, if that's not the desired approach, like basically some way of saying alternative methods of wayfinding are acceptable, such as hardscaping, landscaping.
Lighting.
Yeah.
Wayfinding probably needs to be in the glossary.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, maybe add to glossary.
But when you've brought it up, Katie, it's been really helpful on specific projects, that concept of wayfinding.
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's kind of like the anatomy of a building.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, 1 minute. So I'm gonna do this so we can add it to glossary, but other methods are acceptable, such as paving, pathways, I'm gonna call it, because it doesn't have to be necessarily
Yeah,
paved.
that's true.
Pathways, lighting, what else?
Landscaping.
Landscaping. Okay,
And that's probably pretty good.
yeah. Cool.
I mean,
I'm gonna just add this. Uh-huh.
I'm gonna pipe in again with a just food for thought. I
Go.
totally understand, and I know that occasionally somebody submits something that's a bit odd with the front door, but
Mhm.
wouldn't we generally call that an exception rather than the rule? I see very few sets of plans come through that I don't know exactly where the front door and the entry are.
Yeah, I see frequently, I see inadequate entries.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I
know
do
where
too.
the front door is, but it's not designed comprehensively into
Like
the,
there's,
into the structure.
I think where it
was-
gets confusing is when there's ADUs, because then you got like 2 doors facing the street kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I think,
Right.
Yeah.
It just, I mean, my thing is the only reason I say this is I think we all understand this document, people that deal with it all the time do, but when I kind of try to put myself in the mindset of someone that I came into the area and found a lot and I want to build myself a house. And I
Yeah.
would love to see this very easily grasped and understandable. And I just worry that with all of us kind of with a myopic view of this, that we add in all these things that make perfect sense to all of us, but might be really confusing and create, actually more confusion. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you that some projects do need help with the front door situation, but is it enough so that we need to add more to the document? That's just my thing. It's kind of an Occam's razor kind of thing for me.
I mean, I was thinking of removing this front porch thing, so exchange one for the other, but this kind of like dovetails on this, it's, I don't know. I don't know that it's kind of like an architectural thing, but is it, another question. It's an architectural thing, but is it a design standard thing? Maybe it is a design standard thing. I don't know.
I think.
So
it
I think
helps.
there's, like I could see maybe this one that about wayfinding and the entry being number 1, number 2 being front doors, because a front door is only a front door. It's not the rest of the architecture of an entry.
Yeah.
So we would say entries dash. Consider architectural style of main door, blah, 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 main entry.
Sure.
Maybe it shouldn't say main entry door, architectural style of entry expression or entry massing.
Well, I put main because there could be an ADU. There could be like a back entry door. I don't know, just to make
Or
it.
consider style of main entry as a
Main
method of
entry.
wayfinding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we address the doors in number 2.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So John, in response to what you were asking about, how often we see this, we actually are seeing it often enough that I thought it was worth mentioning. But, I don't think that this is a document that is necessarily meant for, your average person who came and found a lot and wants to build a house and they start drawing their own designs and they decide they want to build. I mean, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate because I know it can be financially prohibitive, but the reality is that having someone who actually understands buildings and permitting and how to interpret design standards is pretty important. And that's part of the reason that I think it's in this document, or we've talked about adding it, that it's recommended to hire an architect. And that we see a lot of projects that come before us where it's people that really don't know what they're doing. And that's not, by any fault of their own, but the reality is that that can end up resulting in a pretty, unfortunate project. And that's why it's so important to have somebody who can actually understand, what is an entry feature supposed to look like?
Okay.
I mean, otherwise there
Well,
would be no design guidelines at all.
So here's I hear what you're saying and I understand it, but here's where I disagree just a little bit. I think anyone that hires an architect or a design professional doesn't need that statement. I think if and I don't know that I remember
like
when
micromanagement or something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is something that people do go and look at it. I mean, I've had people approach me and say, "Yeah, my wife and I bought a lot. I just had a guy do it. He bought a lot. It's in the city limits of Half Moon Bay, but he was just trying to understand. Had an architect lined up, but was trying to understand. His realtor gave him my number, and we had a discussion, and I helped him look over the Half Moon Bay, the city stuff." And they were just trying to understand what the possibilities were, and they found the document confusing. And that's all I'm saying.
Do you think this wayfinding thing is confusing? Not micromanaging, but confusing.
No, I'm just saying as a whole, like as we go through this document, I would love to make sure that it's not so filled with things that it becomes
Okay.
it
Like
becomes
less is more.
unwieldy. Does that make sense?
And
It becomes unwieldy.
you see this as like just being excessive.
A little bit. And I remember, I remember I went to the meetings when this was first put in. They hadn't done it over out of school, and it started out as more of a kind of a community guideline for average people, and it's morphed into something more. And I'm not saying it doesn't need to be that, but I just want to be careful that we don't make it something that the average person can't grasp. I mean,
I think this is pretty easily graspable, to tell you the truth, but
I think another important part of this is for first responders, so they're not searching for a front door too.
yeah. It's pretty easily graspable. I think it is. I kind of agree with John where I'm not sure it's 100% needed, like as a design standard. Like you could say, oh, that house is really non-compliant because it doesn't have like proper wayfinding. Like I just, it's kind of icing on the cake.
Right. It just feels redundant. We've got the fire department that has to sign off and look and make sure that everything meets them. We do have design review, which if it comes in this way, it's going to get addressed. And if they bring it in to me, if they bring it in with a non-delineated entry that doesn't make sense, it's probably got a lot of other issues as well.
Yeah, but the problem is if we don't have a guideline to back us and saying that it's, deficient in that way,
Then it's discretionary.
Yeah, then it's discretionary. I would say since we're obviously not going to be the final decision makers on this, let's just leave it in there because this is all stuff that's going to be a public outreach thing, and we can see if the public feels that this is something that adds value in architecture or not.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just throwing my 2 cents in.
Well, I mean, I'm with you, John, in that if we could end up with guidelines that are shorter than the ones we have now, that would be great. I think we want to cover all the things that we want backing in the guidelines for so that we can condition them. But I also think we do want to make this a user-friendly document.
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping we can remove some of the redundancy and have sections point to other sections, because unless you keep circling back to the early parts of it, it's easy to forget about something you read when you were first laying it out, and then you get to the end when you're detailing windows or something, and then you're not thinking about that section that's way back in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, we can do one last look through, I think, at the end of this process and just make sure where we started is kind of where we ended up, because it could be different places. But this front porches, can you guys let me know, are we keeping this, not keeping this? Is this important if everyone else has
we're keeping it for now? Oh, number 2?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty specific. I don't think it's necessarily that important.
Yeah,
it sounds sort of
just either.
I think it could
discretionary.
go. I think it could go.
Yeah, when in doubt, take out, it sounds like.
So I think what it's trying to do is to discuss the illustration.
The porches?
Yeah, the number 2.
No.
I don't think so.
This one's talking about scale of entry. This one's talking about scale of entry. While this one's talking about literally like if everyone on the block has a front porch, you should have a front porch. That's what this says.
Yeah, I think we should take it out.
Yeah.
I would
add a word to standard 1, right? If we, we could say front doors, design front doors,
porches,
entries, and porches on a scale.
Like that?
Sure, yeah, that too.
Okay.
Or no, you meant like in the front door section.
I meant in the front door.
Oh,
and like it doesn't need its own whole thing. We could just say, front entries.
Oh,
front doors and porches.
Front doors, entries, porches.
Entries.
okay.
Yeah.
Front doors. Okay.
And then remove the
And then
phrase after design front entries.
oh.
Yeah, it could say.
Well, entry is pretty general.
Like front doors, design front doors, entries, and porches is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that
And
good?
maybe
Yep.
just cross out front doors after the number 1.
Oh, cross out.
Because then that's very specific only to front doors, and then we say front doors, entries, and porches.
Right, we can just say entries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have entries already.
Yeah.
Good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Garages, we're making such good progress. Okay. Avoid making the garage dominant feature as seen from the street where it is unavoidable. For example, on steeply sloping lots, pay special attention to garage appearance by choosing decorative doors or 2 single rather than 1 large double door that are consistent with the style of the house and by articulation of the front garage facade. 2, respect the existing pattern in the size, position, or appearance of the garages in the neighborhood, providing the pattern providing that the pattern conforms with the design standards. I don't know, respect the pattern. What does that mean? Like, should it all be cookie cutter? Like, it should be different, you know?
Yeah, it really, again, needs to respect the architecture of the building.
Yes.
Which
Right, I
in
think it should
turn
be-
is respecting the architecture of the neighborhood. And we've already talked about that.
Right, 100% agree. It should respect the design itself.
Yeah,
I do like the first sentence that says avoid making the garage the dominant feature as seen from the street. And I'm thinking of another contemporary project we reviewed recently where it was actually the roof over the garage that was
Right.
making the garage a dominant feature. It wasn't even the garage door.
right.
Mhm.
Is there a place to add color material?
It talks about the single, it says appearance of choosing decorative. It says decorative doors.
Can we talk about style, material, color? By choosing door style, material, or color?
Well, you know what's kind of funny is decorative doors would make it more dominant as a
Yeah,
feature.
it would.
You know, so some styles I've seen where like the garage door is intended to blend in with the siding and be very, you know, subdued.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that two single rather than one large solves the problem either.
I know
Yeah.
you guys have asked for that though. Like where it does face the street, making it 2 versus 1 sort of breaks up that large panel.
It's funny because I designed my house that way because of the standard, and my husband like hates it, and he's like, none of these other projects have single garage doors.
So it's not so much decorative, but just like it's just like this, respecting the design of the building. And this is already said subdued. This already says subdued.
You could say
So
style, material, color, but we're always thinking about it in relation to the garage door itself and not the massing. So maybe we should mention, you know, to not have the massing of the garage be the
Oh.
dominant feature.
And massing of the garage, right?
But I don't want that to, you know, most of the time we end up with a garage that is prominent from the entry, and I don't want it to say that you can't do that. But, you know, I'm thinking of that roof form that we saw that was basically dominating the whole design.
It's pretty clear there. Avoid making the garage the dominant feature.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'd take out from decorative doors all the way to right before consistent. And
Yeah.
put in style, material, true style, material, color, or double door.
To be consistent.
Yeah,
with
well, it says it up there.
Style and
It's right up there.
I
It's
know,
already written.
but
Yeah.
I need a sentence though. So what are we saying?
So we're saying avoid making the garage the dominant feature as seen from the street where it's unavoidable, for example, on steeply sloping lots. Pay special attention to the garage appearance by
appearance.
choosing
Material, color.
By choosing. How about with careful selection of
Yeah.
with careful selection of materials,
door style, material, color,
color.
singular, this is type. This is more type. Type.
To be
Style of
consistent
house.
with
Isn't
the
it style of house and neighborhood?
No, I think
I would
we're
take out-
Much.
taking that out, and neighborhood you can take out to be consistent with the architectural style of the house.
Okay, okay. Oh, okay. Be consistent, not consistent, compatible. Right? Or
Well, in this case, it's consistent,
this, okay, consistent.
consistent.
Yeah, because you don't want it to stand out.
No.
With
The
style.
architectural style.
Okay.
of the house. And I think you can take out and by articulation of the front, maybe by massing. Maybe that's where we introduce massing. But I don't know if you need to say by articulation of the front garage facade. I mean, is that referring to whether or not you inset the door or have an eave on the roof line? I mean, what do you think the articulation of the front garage facade refers to?
What does the picture show? Please scroll down.
I guess I assumed they meant to have some jog in the wall or something, but yeah, I mean, the picture just shows what brackets.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
Oh, it's one of the four
that.
examples. I think it's one of the four examples. Just
Yeah,
to
I mean,
take it out. It's really confusing.
I mean, picture that facade with a flat door with no windows, no brackets, no small window above, you know.
Yeah, that's why I definitely like that we're saying consistent with the architectural style of the house. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
decorative makes sense in that style, but in other styles, you know, having it be more discreet would make more sense.
Right. And I think the overall point is don't put a big flat door with no interest, no design interest at all. No, you know, just because it just looks like a big flat wall with a big flat garage door in it. And I think, you know, so I think this illustrates that well. And as long as we mention consistent with the style of the design, I think it's good to go.
What do you think of number 2?
So I think we're deleting,
Yeah.
I think we're just deleting it.
Yeah.
delete
Mhm.
to and replace with,
I think we've already kind of covered number 2.
Yeah,
I think we
in our-
covered number 2 and number 1, huh?
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Let's delete it.
let me just delete it.
Do we want to speak to carports in this section since that's an option?
Oh, well, yeah, it says garage. Just say-
Yeah, this is
The
specifically
section is
garages.
garages.
Yeah, but there's no other thing that
just say
addresses
garages and carports.
carports.
Oh, no, but
yeah.
then it doesn't, well, anyway. There's no door, but,
This
We
is
should allow
about entries. So, you know, Katie, I think that's a good point because there are some cases where the carport is the dominant feature of the entry and there's no
Yeah.
wayfinding.
Mhm,
Almost all Eichlers are like that.
mhm.
yeah. So we're talking about the garage and the carport in every instance here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then Camille, I have a question for you based on what John was mentioning about how difficult or easy it is for a layman to interpret this document.
Yeah.
Do the planners go through training on terminology and how to interpret this? Because I know that we've identified in the past that I don't think any of the planners have architectural training or background. And they're the
Well-
ones that are supposed to be reviewing and enforcing this, and also the ones that review it before it gets to us. And I know that we've had a lot of concerns that we've had projects come to us that either don't have all the drawings that are needed, or, you know, there's things that have been missed. And I know that sometimes that's just, you know, a factor of the planners not being, you know, design professionals.
Yeah. This is what sort of the standard thing that we do is that we don't actually pay all that nitty gritty detailed focus on the design. We'd rather let the CDRC pick it apart, I guess, because we would hate to say, we'll change that door when the CDRC is going to really love that door. So what we do is we look at overall like articulation. We say like, wow, that elevation is really blank. Can you add some articulation? Like we look at the big stuff.
Mhm.
And then where there's like a question as far as like what a design standard means, like the word articulation or just, you know, whatever design terminology, they should be going to the design review
The
officer.
glossary. Oh, the
Yeah,
opposite.
or the glossary or the design review officer, or even me to say, well, Camille, what does this mean? And then we can help them, but not everyone's gonna like, you know, be at the same level.
Mhm.
But yeah, we don't, I try to tell our planners, like, don't get too nitty gritty into the design standards. I would say just like our main focus is zoning and general compliance. Like if we think that something's going to be like a big setback for the project, they're definitely by themselves 2 meetings is what I say. Like, if you're going to go in with that facade, it's definitely 2 meetings. Then, we kind of encourage them to change it if it's just kind of like a deal breaker. But otherwise, just this nitty gritty moving windows around, like we don't do that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
We leave it up to CDRC and the neighbors and, because it
Okay.
should be in that public forum.
Okay.
All right, we're good there.
Mhm.
So these diagrams are still pretty good. When a prominent garage is unavoidable, choose decorative garage doors are consistent. Consistent,
I
decorative.
mean, it's calling out a certain style that we all know and love, but it does illustrate that, it goes with it. I think I don't know if it's
Yeah.
worth changing.
Again, we might be able to have that same
Diagrammatic.
comment for the last graphic of, more diagrammatic, or add other examples that illustrate different architectural styles.
Yeah.
Less prescriptive, yeah.
Okay, never mind the spelling mistakes. Roof design. Oh, I've been meaning to get to this because energy code and building code, and honestly, our climate of the planet is more important than design review. I hate to say it. I'm sorry if that's controversial. But cool roofs are better for the planet. Not only that, but they're required by energy code. They're better, if as soon as you heat up a roof, you basically have to expend the energy to cool the whole house down. So I think that we need to somehow, there's been a ban on white roofs in the coastal zone. Less so through the design standards, more so just, us interpreting this non-reflective roof to mean like no white. I think we need to make a decision on whether white should be allowed or not, but due to the changes in the building code encouraging light roofs or cool roofs, we've been allowing where we usually have always encouraged or even required medium to dark gray, browns, and blacks. We have been less stringent, and it's okay to do a light beige, light gray, when usually it was just medium dark. So, but that's all, outside of these standards, and it should be, codified in these standards. So we need to talk about color, but then, this whole flat roof thing is something that's coming to a head too with the modern design.
So when you're talking about energy, Camille, do you take into consideration the reflective characteristic of a roof that can impact someone else's energy by reflecting?
Well, it's required by building code. So you can't build a house that's out that conflicts with building code. So if building code says do a cool roof, then what we can say is like, I know that white is reflective, but there is a kind of a, reflectivity is a bit subjective with regard to the lights, the light beiges, the light grays. So I think staff does need more direction in this area. And if I would like to hear what the CDRC has to, what they think of like allowing light beiges. And I think we may not have like a huge amount of leeway just because of the code requirements.
Right. And not to mention, Camille, that, solar is required as well. So
that's a really good point.
So the look and makeup of roofs is changing quickly anyway.
It's true.
So I think we should probably allow
whatever
for that somehow.
Do we want to ban white, or do we want to allow white? I mean, assuming that either like, half of the roof or 80% of the roof could be covered with solar panels, like we still have to talk about the parts of the roof that are left.
Well, I'm actually kind of looking up what they classify as pool roofs, and it sounds like it's based on the SRI value of our climate zone. So maybe we should just try not to be prescriptive about the colors, and that's something that can be evaluated by the committee. But we might just, and we're specifically just talking about material at this point and not about massing and roof forms, but from a material standpoint, we have been saying that we wanted low SRI for metal roofs because it's less reflective for neighboring properties and for, the animals in the area and for glare on the road. But the lower SRI is actually the opposite of a pool roof.
Yeah, exactly.
And I
So I
think
don't
that
think we
area,
have the answers, but I think that we could make some points here of what needs to be considered when it does go out to the public is, that we need to be thinking about placement for solar. We need to be thinking about the SRI value in relation to a cool roof requirement. And then, we already have kind of discussed earlier in this work session, like 1 or 2 work sessions ago, daylight planes and how those will be impacting adjacent properties and their ability to have solar. So I think that definitely impacts the roof form, and then the roof form in relation to its solar orientation to be able to actually generate solar is another consideration.
Yeah, it's not necessarily something that needs to be considered by CDRC though.
yeah, I mean, that's something that's, when you do the house, you have someone that does solar looks at that and tells you what to do. I don't think we as a,
I just feel like the solar design often happens after massing is already kind of put in place.
Yeah, and the state specifically excludes solar panels from like zoning and design reviews specifically. So I'm crossing that out for legal reasons. We can't where it says consider, like I think what Katie said was consider the placement of solar panels. We have zero authority over that. I think it's just overall we just need to consider more like not design, but just keep in mind that there will be solar requirements as well as daylight plan requirements.
So yeah, when it comes to the colors, I mean, we could really stay away from talking about colors and we could talk just about SRI.
Well, we could just say non-reflective roof materials aren't.
Well, is that for just metal? Is there an SRI for like,
For everything
continental and all that? Really?
Yeah, every color has a different SRI
Okay.
because it's like light to dark, basically. Dark absorbs, light reflects.
Do you know, or does anyone on this call know what the building code? Because I think there's a minimum SRI, or there's sort of like for the energy code.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to look up in this.
Okay.
What I was looking at. Let's see.
Minimum, yeah.
Going down the rabbit hole in Google right now. It's not very helping. So we could circle back on that and maybe do a little bit of research.
Okay, so
So you're saying we do have the authority to reject white? A color, Camille?
yeah. Well, let's just say we've been doing it as a practice for many, many years now. Planning. Regulating quantitatively.
But is that really, I mean, it's helping with the reflectivity issue, but it's really not taking care of it.
I think by banning white, we ensure that the most reflective of the colors, i.e. white, is not being used. And then it's also kind of, it's the visual too, like it's just so prominent, white, visually prominent that, we're also eliminating the most visually prominent. I mean, unless you're going to paint your roof orange or something, but like, we're taking that color out. I mean, I think it's acknowledged that if you use like a dark earth tone, that like, that's the most that blends in the best with the environment and in general. So I think that's why we have that practice, but
And that's okay. We're able to do that.
Yeah, but it's never been codified. So if that practice is something that you guys want codified, now's the time.
Although it's in conflict with building code.
No, I don't know. I don't think banning white is in conflict with the building code. I think what we were doing is we were banning like lighter brown, light browns and light grays. We were always encouraging people to do either medium grays or dark, medium or dark brown and grays.
So for example, the metal roof leading to Miramar.
Oh yeah.
What color is that?
I don't know which one you're talking about. I thought you were talking about the one in Princeton.
No, it's actually leading to Miramar Beach Inn, that
On the right, the one the car ran into.
yeah, the one the car.
Oh, the back one.
And
Next to the park button.
yeah,
Yeah, the
lots
one-
of complaints on that, and I think that might be gray.
I think it's like a medium gray or a light gray.
Right. And
Yeah.
that was an example.
That one looked like it was just like aluminum. It was a pretty light color.
Right, but we would have no jurisdiction to prevent that.
I don't think we would have any jurisdiction to prevent that nowadays
Mhm,
because we want a cool roof.
right, so. Like I said, I think it helps, but it doesn't take care of the issue.
So I'm looking at something, we're in climate zone 3 and it says climate zones 2 through 16 require a cool roof in non-residential steep slope, new construction and re-roof applications.
Only non-residential.
Yeah, I'd have to dig into it a little bit more to see. Because obviously one website's not gonna, just because
Yeah.
it's on the internet doesn't make it true, right?
Yeah, I was talking to Fred about it like 6 months ago. So Fred, our building official. So I'm pretty foggy on it, but like the details, but
So we should circle back to this.
we should circle back quantitatively. I think these are maybe even enough to go on. We should just the fact that we should allow cool roofs as required by building code. We should think about a quantitative reflectance index, which is the SRI, regulating reflectance. And then also just overall that we just kind of take into consideration the requirements for solar and daylight plane.
And I
then-
think the word encouraged, we probably want to strike from this document. Under number 2.
Yeah. Oh, pitch.
Yeah, we haven't even gone to that. We're basically only on the material selection.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say allow light grays and browns in addition. Okay. For now anyway, and we need to revisit this. Revisit once I talk to Fred again, maybe.
Okay, so that's the material part of it.
Yeah.
So I think, this has always been a pretty interesting topic for us to try to, create standards that aren't too prescriptive, but that are able to like clearly communicate what we're trying to accomplish with primary and secondary roof forms, eave heights, the massing, all of that.
Mhm. When planning a new home or second story addition, begin with a primary roof form. Consider additions to the primary roof such as secondary roof forms and dormers that may serve to reduce the home's apparent mass and scale, provide visual interest, and have an appropriate number of roof forms. Additional roof forms shall be architecturally compatible with the primary roof form slip and trail. I think you guys are actively enforcing that. Pitched roofs are encouraged. I think this is where flat roof designs may be acceptable if the height does not exceed 22 feet.
Yeah, I think we could take number 2 out completely.
Yeah, just take it out completely.
Yeah, and what was the genesis of that? Just to keep craftsman style?
So that every house for the last 20 years would look just the same.
Yeah.
Or maybe because with the low eaves and you have a less bulky roof, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I would-
It's
mean,
interesting
less bulky
because
is
then
more.
sometimes with a pitched roof, you end up with a higher ridge that has more,
Yeah,
more opportunity to block views or
That's
appear
true.
more massive.
Yeah. yeah. Because I think some planners are actively doing this whole do not exceed 20% the flat roof.
Right, because it's a number. They
That's
can.
what Dennis said to
Exactly.
me when I had my pre-app meeting for my house. And I started redesigning my house to not have flat roofs, and I just went in circles. And then I said, screw it. I'm just going to put it in front of the committee because this is going to ruin the design.
Yeah. And if then, you know, then there's no pushback at all to the design review committee. Okay, so taking that out, this is pretty good still. It's a little crostony, but
I like that's kind of the diagrammatic
yeah,
look that I was thinking. But I think that what would help us in those diagram instances is having more than one diagram, so that it's showing how you could have primary, secondary roof forms for a different architectural style in a diagrammatic way.
okay. Keep as this is diagrammatic, but add additional.
What does the rest of the committee think about that?
I think it's good. I think just a second one, you know, I think one other style would be enough. I don't think we need to do multiple.
Okay. Good. Thanks. Good point. Ready to move on?
Mhm.
Okay. Design compatibility. Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Design
And this is-
compatibility.
And this is still under roof design.
Okay.
Like,
Thank you. There is an established architectural style of roofs in a neighborhood. If there is an established architectural style of roofs in a neighborhood, roof shape and type should be compatible with roofs in the neighborhood and with the existing home. Good. Express, or even new home. Express this compatibility through roof forms, slopes, materials, and massing. Our applicants may also consider alternate roof forms that improve the architectural quality of the house where the design enhances the character of the neighborhood.
That's
So,
a mouthful.
yeah, I think this could be scratched out because this assumes an addition, you know?
mhm.
Again, I think we should harken back to not so much the architectural styles in the neighborhood, but the roof forms to be compatible with the architectural style of the
Home. Yeah.
home.
Right.
Yeah, which is what this says, but it doesn't say architectural style, it's just compatible with the home. Let me add.
Yeah,
that.
we would just have to strike out with roofs in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But that's still
the roof-
important, isn't it? Or no?
Not as much. I mean, we start out way back by saying, be compatible with the architectural styles in the neighborhood. And I think once you do that, you want to be compatible with the architectural style you've selected.
Yeah,
Okay, so get rid of that. So forget the neighborhood, whether there's a
Yeah.
dominant style or
No,
not.
that was discussed initially in choosing your architectural style.
Roof, so start with roof shapes and types should be compatible with, should be compatible with,
the architectural style of the home.
Yeah, should complement the architectural style of the project.
complement.
Consistent. This is where consistent becomes.
Are you
Right.
sure?
Yeah, compatible is where you're trying to be harmonious. Consistent is where you're trying to integrate with the architectural, the actual item, more
So you,
integrated / similar, as opposed to harmonious.
so should be consistent.
Yeah, this is a case of being consistent with the architectural style of the home.
Okay.
Maybe instead of express this compatibility, it could say this can be accomplished through roof forms, slope material, and massing.
Yeah.
Because we're
Yeah.
not trying to show compatibility.
Yes. That's it.
This should be accomplished by.
So instead of express this compatibility, you say this should be well, should. Are we using that word?
I would
Can,
say
may.
should, may, yeah, may.
This
That's
is-
very optional then.
This is accomplished through roof forms, slope materials,
Yeah,
or this objective can be met.
By roof forms or through
Yeah,
roof forms.
Through roof forms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Materials and massing.
yeah.
Applicants may also consider alternate roof forms to improve the architecture. So this is for re-roofs and just kind of like.
Well,
reading.
that would be alternate to the neighborhood, though. That's what it's referring back to. So we could get rid of that.
No, it says forms that improve the architectural quality of the house.
Well, we're actually articulating that by saying it should be consistent with the architectural style.
I think it's talking about like re-roofs, like where it's like, you know, you have like your T111 house, your, you know, you're kind of
Uh-huh.
like a regular house, but you want to
Uh-huh.
put like a nicer roof on it to improve the architectural quality of the house. I think that's what it's talking about.
Well, it's talking about roof forms.
That improve the architectural quality of the house, meaning like it's not that great currently, and you're using the roof to sort of upgrade it.
So maybe we
Well,
could
it's-
clarify.
It's
by making-
relative to the neighborhood, though. It's,
I think the whole thing could just be eliminated.
I think
Yeah.
so too,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
It's a very
agree.
weird instance that it's talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's talking about those those flat roof Eichlers.
Yeah, they're like, improve the design by getting rid of the flat roof. And we're like, no, we like the flat roof.
I know, and now it's like
Uh-huh.
in and okay.
So architectural style, roof shape. Architectural style, roof shape. Roof shape and types should be,
Hmm.
well, again, should be consistent with,
I think that diagram and sentence would need to be replaced.
Yeah.
And maybe this is where having several examples, I don't know, because the more examples we show, the more it starts to feel kind of prescriptive and, you know.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, modern's not going to fit in necessarily with the whole neighborhood, and it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So then, what's the point of a diagram at all? You know,
yeah, no, we don't need that diagram, right?
Yeah,
and don't replace.
Yeah.
Because it's like this whole design compatibility, that's design within itself, right?
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So this kind of implies with the neighborhood, you know?
Oh, it does, right? Huh.
Well, and under discussion, it specifically says some neighborhoods have roof patterns.
So maybe just add this to the roof section instead.
Let's see.
Here,
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Yeah, massing and design of roof forms. Yes, it does. So
Okay.
that whole section was put in relative to the neighbors.
Okay, add to roofs. What is it called? What's the other roof section?
It's roof design, massing and design of roof forms.
Section. Excellent. Reduce the size of this. Okay. Excellent.
So just to go back to that conceptually, I just want to take a sanity check here. Do we care as long as the architectural style is compatible with the neighboring homes? Do we care if the roof design consistent with the architectural style
Mhm.
that is compatible with the neighboring homes is okay? We don't care so much what the neighbors' roofs look like.
Yeah, I don't think we do care what the neighbors' roofs look like. If the design is in a neighborhood that has a pattern that has to be
Mhm.
respected, we've already kind of covered that elsewhere.
Yeah,
We could point them back to that. We could add a sentence that said, you know, for neighborhoods that have a strong pattern of massing and architectural style, refer back to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But you have to spell the blah, blah, blah correctly, you know.
Wait, refer back just to the architectural design in general, not just
Yeah.
roofs, be so
Yeah.
specific about roofs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's already all there.
So like if they're looking at the roof section, we can say, hey, by the way, if there is a strong pattern here, remember to look back at that other section.
No, I don't. Why would you just be looking at like roof styles? I don't, I just seems-
Yeah, I mean, window styles, you could say that in every section.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
it's like, it's just the architectural style, like writ large, you know, like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the roof's got to match go with it. The project has to be harmonious as a whole, including the roof.
Yes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, as
Like
long as
all out.
we really carefully articulate the original in the architectural style section about compatibility with the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that's
know.
the only. Okay.
Yeah, we just, state it once.
Yeah,
and
state it
then
once.
Move on to the
Yeah.
architectural details.
good.
Yeah,
Okay. Are we good there?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Exterior materials and colors. Wow. Just go straight to standards. Compatibility. Use non-reflective exterior materials and colors that complement and improve the neighborhood and are compatible with the architecture of the house. Let's just take these one by one. Should we, or should we read the whole thing?
Just one by one.
Okay. Because I have somebody here who wanted to cover their house with metal panels, like not on the roof, but on the walls.
Yeah.
And they may a little.
Hello?
We lost you, Camille? We can't hear you at all, Camille.
Come back.
Camille.
Glenn, is Camille's audio still current?
He's not here either.
Yeah, this is Glenn, and I see
Come back.
Camille has been unmuted, but we just don't hear her. I'm not sure what's going on. Camille, if you can hear us, can you please rejoin this meeting?
Yeah, we'll wait for you.
Yeah, give Camille some time, and probably she needs to rejoin this meeting to make her audio work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so she just left the meeting, and then she'll rejoin, and we'll see if that will fix the issue.
It's a perfect intermission because my almost 4-year-old just ran in and had to tell me everything about her day.
Enjoy that while it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
taking my
starting
18
school in August. She's going to go to junior kindergarten.
Oh
Well,
my God,
I'm-
that's so
I'm taking-
amazing.
I'm taking my daughter to Tennessee in August to, go to college and leave, which is,
Yeah, very cool. Is she gonna be in Vanderbilt or?
no, she's going to a small liberal arts college called Sewanee. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but
What's the city?
it's actually in the town of Sewanee. It's about 90 miles south of Nashville.
Wow.
And
Very cool.
it's a very, very, she got into some great schools, and we kind of swung by there on a lark to look at it, and she just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
It's one of the few schools, I think there's only 2 schools in the country that actually offer a creative writing major. So I think that's probably a big piece. She's very interested in doing that. So
Fabulous.
but all these years you take care of them, and then you got to let them go. It's a little rough. I'm having some angst.
Yeah. Is she your first to leave the nest?
She is, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a big milestone.
Yeah, well, she's gonna have some culture shock, I think, but it's
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, leaving the bubble.
yeah. But it's a pretty cool school, actually. When I looked into it, I'm excited for her.
Hey, everyone, Camille is back.
Guys, sorry, the San Mateo County internet has turned off, but I got back in and I turned it back on. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. John, where's your daughter going?
She's going to a school in Tennessee called Sewanee.
Wow. It's like an artsy school.
It's kind of very artsy school. It's got an 8-to-1 ratio. It feels like it was modeled after Oxford. It was built in like 1840s.
Whoa.
So it's really old. It's out kind of off by itself. Like the dean of the college is also the mayor of the town. It's kind of an honorary position that you become the mayor if you're the dean of the school.
It's very interesting.
It's actually a really strong school for writing. They have a lot of which is what my daughter's very into. So they have a great writing program, one of the best in the country.
Cool.
So
Okay.
So
Well,
there's
Vinny,
anyway,
good.
back to writing about exterior
Design.
materials and colors.
Yes. Okay, use reflective. Yeah, so I was describing this weird, I mean, it's kind of, I'm sorry to say weird, but it was it's a strange design. I hadn't seen it before. It had like these weird exterior metal panels. They were treated somewhat. But other than roofs, exterior materials that are, I guess, under modern applications, I guess you could have like some reflective panels used or whatever. So this seems to be relevant still.
Are you talking like the corrugated panels, Camille?
They were weird. They were flat. They weren't corrugated. They were like
I have metal panels on my house, by the way.
yeah, they were treated, but yours was like coherent, and because it was a brand new modern house. This was literally not a modern house.
It was kind of like lipstick on a pig.
But like,
sort of
but
thing.
applied, like let's try to modernize. And it was odd, to tell you the truth. And we all told them that they needed to go to the CRC because it was so odd.
Well,
So-
number one seems like that actually addresses it really pretty
Yeah.
well.
I think it does. Okay, so number 2, consider the exterior materials and colors on neighboring houses. Strive for complementary materials and colors on new and remodeled homes. Avoid the use of materials and colors that are too similar, repetitive, or clash.
I think that's well articulated too. I mean, in this case, materials and colors, in addition to being an issue for the architectural style of the home, it does impact the neighborhood composition.
I have always found that particular passage to be confusing because it tells you to consider them and then tells you to avoid using them.
Oh,
I think
Right.
it's the difference between being complementary versus copying.
Right. But it's, just taken
so
literally.
it's when considering the exterior materials and colors used on neighboring homes, strive for complementary, so it's I think that's what it's trying to say.
Well, I guess what I would ask is when it says avoid the use of materials and colors that are too similar, repetitive, or clashing, is that in respect to the project or to neighboring homes or both?
Right. It's just that whole passage. to me,
Yeah.
well,
Just this
I-
last one is so,
Oh, right.
clashing. I
True.
get clashing,
True.
but I don't get similar or repetitive.
to me, it feels like we're heading more in the direction of letting a project kind of stand on its own merit.
Yeah.
And I think we're trying to get away from like, okay, make it look like everything else around you. So this just to me feels contrary to what to the direction that we're trying to move.
So this is clashing with other
homes, I'm pretty sure it's
No.
relative to the neighborhood.
I thought it was within itself, clashing with other colors on the house.
Yeah,
with
that's
other-
why I was asking what the context of that sentence was. Like, there's a house that was painted recently in El Granada that the colors are definitely clashing on the
With-
house.
With itself. Well, I
Yeah,
think
with
we have
itself.
to-
With-
we
I think
have
it's gonna
to-
clash with everything,
Well,
honestly.
I'm looking at.
I think we have to address that, but I think given the introduction, it's
Oh yeah, given the
looking at neighboring homes.
Well, I think both, number one kind of is both improve the neighborhood and is compatible with architecture of the house. It's like, do we want to separate like what's relevant to itself? I mean, compatibility, I think it's discussing like both to itself and to the neighbors. But in each instance, we do have to clarify, like, are we talking about the house? Or are we talking about the neighbors? But I think in this instance, I mean, that's why John said it was confusing. It's hard to know what it's referring to, but I think when it's referred not to the neighbors, but to itself, I think it makes more sense.
Yeah, I think it makes as a statement on the project itself, but when you apply it to the whole neighborhood, where do you go with that?
Yeah,
Say
exactly.
use materials that are complementary to one another.
Yeah. So if we get rid of the consider the exterior materials and colors used on neighboring houses and just start with
Drive for,
use materials and colors that are complementary to one another.
yeah.
Yeah,
On the home
That's-
itself.
yeah.
So do we care if like one house is green and the next house is like,
Well,
I don't know.
I honestly don't. And then mainly it's because as soon as they're out of the design review realm, anybody can paint their house whatever the heck color they want, right?
Well, we don't, I mean.
yeah, I mean, the
No,
number one
right.
guides you to, not be.
I mean, like
obtuse.
if somebody bought a house and they did no projects and they decided they wanted to change the color, then, you have no control over how
Well,
the
we
color
do,
of the
we do,
neighborhood.
Katie, we do.
Do we?
Like,
Yeah,
Please
if they painted it purple, that's a problem,
Is
Um,
it?
My neighbor's house
Yeah.
is purple,
John
can
had to
go
build
and
a
looking
house
at it
right
right
next
now.
to it.
So I think what Dawn was saying about eclectic, like if you have a whole neighborhood that's like tones of brown and beige, and then you got one house that wants to come in that's green, I think that's not a bad thing necessarily,
Yeah,
So maybe clashing, maybe we should just delete this because
I think it's enough to say,
this
use
is without a doubt.
materials and colors that are complementary
To
to one another and the
one another, yeah. I think that is important.
And okay, we're still on 2, but
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're doing here?
Yeah.
That's what it already said. Okay.
Number 2, yeah.
Okay.
Wait. Before we move on, Camille, so are you saying that if a house is painted a color that is terrible, that the county does have purview to make them change it, even if there's not a design review?
Permit. Yeah. There's design review standards that are enforced at the permit application stage, but they apply broadly.
But like, you don't need a permit to paint a house.
You should get a DRX. If truly the color palette works, then you would be eligible for a DRX, a design review exemption. So if we identify a house where they're through the finals, they're done, they've moved in 10 years now, and they wanted to paint it something crazy, we could open a code violation case and have them apply for a DRX, which we would deny and say, unless you paint it, something that's compatible with the design standards, and then they can decide what they.
Okay.
Really? I did not know
Yes.
that. That's really interesting to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically somebody would have to complain for that to ever happen, right?
Yeah. Usually.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Oh, the CDRC was kind of identifying like, you guys were identifying things that were like, oh, they built this thing and we don't see a permit and a seller for it. And, it's something that you guys can identify, or even staff can identify just driving by as well. But, okay. So I think we're okay with number 2. Yes.
Except for considering, yeah. Did we do that? Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on. Use warm muted colors and natural appearing materials on the house that blend with the surrounding natural features when viewed from a distance. While earth tone colors are encouraged along with darker colors used to reduce, while earth tone colors are encouraged along with darker colors used to reduce apparent mass, other colors may be appropriate based on architecture, neighborhood, and surrounding natural features.
I think just that first section needs to be rewritten. While earth tone colors or darker colors are encouraged.
Yeah.
Reduce apparent mass.
I have to say though, I thought it was here that there was a section about white. I feel like it comes up a lot.
The non-reflective color, it's number 1, I think.
The guidelines don't support white.
Yeah, I think it was just number 1, the
Is it
non-reflective.
one non-reflective? I guess I thought that we were talking about roofs when we were talking about non-reflective.
Have you guys allowed white? I think you guys have.
No, we
I
haven't
feel like
actually.
you usually don't, and I kind of wanted to bring it up because I like white houses, and
I know, and they're kind of big right now. Because I know like in Emerald Hills, there's a white ban, like a ban on white houses, but Dennis, for some reason, always mentioned a yellow color ban in Coastside and not white.
I like white houses
And
myself,
white.
and I'm in favor.
They seem to be very popular right now, and they're looking pretty good.
Federal.
Yeah.
So I wish I could share a picture. There's a house around the corner from me that they recently repainted, and they painted it white with black trim. And it's basically surrounded by forest, and it's glaring. It's so incredibly out of place. I think that in some neighborhoods it would work better, like even in the mid-coast. But I think that it really depends on the location of the property. And unfortunately, the Google Street View for the house is still the old color. But I've always continued with how the committee had treated white in all of the reviews that I had participated in. And I've been like, okay, that's the precedent. This is what we have, held for the standard for all projects.
Really?
And I didn't really have a strong opinion about that one way or the other until I saw this house. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's
Because it's out of place.
it's really out of
There's
place.
something about the context that made it different.
The
not-
context is a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
I'm open
also
to
the surrounding environment.
talking about that, but it's tough because I think that in some places it would work well, and but in other areas, and so how can you have like a blanket guideline that applies to the whole mid coast when some areas are much more agricultural or have a lot more greenery or whatever?
Well, my feeling is that we have earlier sections that talk about being appropriate to the site and the immediate context. And so that would allow us to say, oh, this bright white house isn't appropriate in the context of this forested setting or something like that. But that if we just say we don't encourage reflective color, we don't allow white, then we're making it hard for applicants in places where it might be appropriate to.
So maybe number 1 and number 3 need to be merged.
Oh yeah, the surrounding natural features, that covers it. Use warm, warm, white is not warm though.
No, it says use non-reflective, and then it says use warm.
Not warm.
Can it just say use colors and natural appearing materials?
Yeah.
Because also, like, we had a blue house we approved recently, and blue's not a warm color. My house is blue. Like, I think
Yeah, we have lots of blues and grays. I don't think we stick with warm at all.
Yeah. Or
No.
muted
But
as
I
well.
would say muted, we do kind of stick with a bit more. I think
Well,
having colors,
blue's not muted.
it can
I mean,
be. It depends on the
Yeah, it
blue.
can
Like
be.
a
Yeah,
very,
we don't want
if
like
it was a Smurf blue, then that would
primary
be
colors.
Right.
too saturated.
The IKEA house in Montero.
Oh, I don't know if I know that.
You
one.
want to keep the word muted? I don't, muted to me sounds like beige, grays,
We
light gray.
could say less saturated.
Oh, well, some of the more saturated look pretty
I
good
know,
too.
I know.
Well, like I said, we could just go with use colors and natural
blend with the
appearing.
Yeah,
surroundings.
it's the blend. It's the blend part that matters.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm going to quickly pipe in, and unfortunately I have a 4:00 appointment, so I'm going to have to check out.
okay, I'm checking out at 4 too.
Does our
I'm checking out
process
at 4.
start at 4?
Yeah,
No,
item number 1
ends at
starts
4.
at 4.
Your item starts at 4 because it
Okay.
was 2 hours from 2 o'clock. So
Right.
the next item starts at 4. So we have to close up in 9 minutes anymore.
Maybe like a 5.
John, do you need to leave to get to your appointment?
I can. It's literally like 5 minutes from where I'm sitting, so I can hang in for another 3 or 4 minutes probably.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
I'm
leave
gonna
me-
want a 2-minute break before our 4 o'clock anyway. So maybe
Okay.
Yeah.
wrap in 5.
Yeah, let's wrap up in 3 minutes. Well, to reduce. Okay, so
So I'm suggesting combine 1 and 3. Because we're addressing in 3 based on the architectural neighborhood and surrounding natural features. So in the first sentence, we focus on the architecture of the house. And in number 3, it's encouraging
Blending with the
non-white, but
environment.
it's encouraging you to, be compatible with your environment
I
as
mean,
well.
I feel like number 1 really just has to do with reflectivity, while number 3 has to do with like the surrounding natural features.
Mhm.
Right, but by combining them, I'm suggesting that the mention of non-reflective or reflectivity is then related to surrounding natural features.
I don't know if that's necessary.
I kind of see
Um,
what you mean, because the non-reflective exterior material is, it's not about the palette of the house. It's about the palette of the house in relation to the neighborhood and the environment.
Yeah, and that's where you're having an issue with the house around the corner.
Yeah.
It's not so much that it's reflective, it's that it sticks out like a sore thumb, right?
Right, which means it's the more reflective color.
Yeah, it's glaring.
Yeah,
A glaring.
Yeah, it's like a glaring white surrounded by forest.
Well, this is like an all-out ban for non-reflective. This is less about context. This is just non-reflective. This has to do with context. I don't know. I
Well,
don't.
do we
I think it
still
would make
think-
it more. I think it would make it more confusing to combine them.
Do we
'Cause
still think that the non-reflective number one is?
Yeah, because of the metallic panels that I mentioned and the.
mhm.
Yeah, I think it's good to say non-reflective. I mean, you can be white and still be, you know, it can be like a warm white and not be particular.
How about use
give us some
non-reflective colors? Or what's
Well,
it?
the metal goes back to the material, like.
That
Camille
says-
Yeah, I
Exchange
think
was-
one is good, and I mean, I don't know. I don't have a strong
I
opinion.
don't know if we're gaining
Uh-huh.
anything by combining them, and I think it would make it a little more
Okay.
confusing.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well.
Well,
maybe
I
we should
guess
just
with
follow
by
input.
deleting warm and muted, we're, giving a range, but we're developing a sensitivity with this context.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll pick up here next time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank
Problem.
you.
Okay,
Thank you,
see you
Camille.
guys
Thanks,
next week.
everyone.
Have a good last item.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Danielle.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, we're at 3:55 p.m. now, so I
5
guess
minutes?
take a 5-minute break.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will see you guys in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, see you later.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. We're at 4 o'clock now. And
Hi.
yeah, and then we have one design review project on the agenda. And I see the project team is here. I promoted them to be the panelists.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Beverly,
Hey, Brian.
and everybody else. Hi.
Hey, Brian.
Hi there.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hi, Beverly. How are you?
Good. How are
Everybody
you?
knows
I'm
everybody.
good. Eric's with me. I didn't know how to
Hello, Eric.
change my name to say he's here. Hi, Mark.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
And
Good,
who else
thanks.
do we have here?
Hi, I'm Katie Handel. Nice to meet you all.
Katie. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Yeah, and one more person.
Oh, Renee. Yeah.
Renee Mulder. Okay, great, great. All right, shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Please.
All right, let's
Start up.
begin. This is for Eric and Rebecca Taubman. Welcome. Applicant Renee Moldovan, Botus Construction. File number PLN 2022-00010, 450 Lancaster Boulevard, Moss Beach, APN 037171770. Committee of three, myself, Beverly Garrity, Katie Kostyuk, and Rebecca Katkin will be the subcommittee reviewing your project, which is for a recommendation. This is the consideration of a design review recommendation for the construction of a 418 square foot addition to an existing 1,978 square foot single family residence with an existing attached 2-car garage and the legalization of an existing 220 square foot pergola on a legal 5,488 square foot parcel. Associated with a hearing level CDP, the project includes minor grading and no tree removal. The subject property is located within the Cabrillo Highway Scenic Corridor. The CDRC will not render a decision, but will make a recommendation regarding the project's compliance with design review standards. A planning commission public hearing will take place after July 14th, 2022, this meeting. The project is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. Application deemed complete June 10th, 2022. Project planner Glenn Gia, BJIA@smcgov.org. Okay, who's presenting? Katie?
You're on mute, Kate.
Great, you're on mute.
Yeah, I am. I'm Kate Handel.
Great. If
And
you could give us an overview of the project, that would be wonderful.
sure, yes, as you mentioned, we're proposing a 418 square foot addition to the home. It would create a total of 2,396 square feet of living space plus the garage. The renovation is also involving relocating the kitchen and living room to the south side of the home to take advantage of natural light, proximity to the backyard, and a new vaulted ceiling. I believe everyone has access to the plans through the agenda that I was shared from Renee. The home's new flow now better supports the 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and a new office for working from home. The addition is in the front of the home, and it is similar to other additions that have been completed by comparable homes on this same street. The proposed exterior finishes are neutral and intentionally timeless and in keeping with this overall neighborhood. All of our choices are intended to create a very charming coastal cottage style home for this local young family. I would also share that Rebecca was born and raised in Moss Beach, and Rebecca's parents still live in Moss Beach, as well as Rebecca's sister as well. The Todmans have strong ties to the Coastside area, and they are investing in their renovation to make their home attractive, functional, and to ensure that it supports their vision of raising their 2-year-old daughter in this home.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Katie, I have a question for you. I see the existing roof plan. I do not see the proposed roof plan. Am I missing something?
So there are some roof details in the plans here, but typically the roof plan is something that I defer to the structural engineer to draw.
Yeah, if the project team can share your plan set with us, that would be very helpful on the screen.
So
Is there already a structural engineer involved that has prepared a roof plan?
yes,
Okay.
I don't know if that has been shared.
Brian, do you have a roof plan from Kevin?
I believe so, yes. Do you see page A8 of the drawings? It shows the roof plan on the kind of a 3D view. It shows the part that's changing of the roof plan is just the small addition on the left side of the house. Is that enough of a roof plan there?
Well, it's not
No.
technically a roof plan,
It's-
it's more of a perspective.
Yeah, that's more
Right.
of a 3D. And it's not, these 3Ds don't actually accurately depict the current roof and potentially the proposed roof. You see, you know how you see how you have that little bit of a shed in the front, that's also on the sides. And it's in the original garage as well. So I think Kevin's would be more accurate, the structural engineer.
So the structural package was submitted.
Glenn, do you
To the
have those drawings to be able to forward to the committee?
Looking for
Yeah, I'm looking for like the structural plan set. If I receive one, that should be in my folder. I'm trying to find that plan right now, and I'll share with the committee once I find it.
Okay, so that was just a question.
So I have them here.
You do.
Okay, if you have. them, please
You
click
can
the-
share your screen,
I was gonna say I have them too, but.
Brian.
Okay, just a second. Okay. Share screen.
You can
Is that it?
choose the drawing or your,
Okay.
So you see that?
we're not seeing the image. Oh,
There,
now we are. That's the structural set. Do you have the roof
Yeah.
plan?
Yeah, we'll just scroll
Okay.
down.
There you go.
Okay,
There you go. Okay, any questions, Katie, Rebecca?
is the intention that the new gable, that everything comes together at the fascia line and those are all lined up? On the 3D, it looks like there's also, there's the existing gable, a second gable, and then like a little shed in front of it, which I don't see here.
Yeah. Let me just,
Yeah, it does look like the little shed that truncates the gable extends in front of the fascia of the two gables.
right, it's kind of like the elevation of the front. Katie, I'm gonna shoot you a picture of the current. If
Are you
would-
talking to me or Kate?
Oh, not Kate, Katie Kostiuk. I'm gonna
Oh, okay.
shoot you a picture of the front.
Oh, I'm looking at it on Street View.
Are you? Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can see that little
Yeah,
shed
no, I don't see it on the roof plan. is what
and
I was
the
saying.
eave.
The structural drawing, yeah.
Right, and it also goes back, for clarification, it goes back around the side. It's a straight line all the way to the back corner of the house.
On the right.
Yeah, and the left. It's just the style of the roof. So Brian, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Brian, if you stop
you go ahead.
sharing.
So should I unshare that structural?
Yes,
Yeah, yes, thank you. Did you do that? Not from my point of view.
Yeah, I'm not able to share until Brian.
Till
stops
you
sharing.
unshare. There you
Yeah,
go.
I just stopped his sharing.
Okay, so this is the street view that I'm looking at. for the house.
Okay.
So
Right.
it looks
so-
like there's a shed roof here across the entry. It's a
Yeah.
lower slope than the primary roof form. And then we've got this shed that goes across the front. And I think what you were talking about, how it wraps around the side was,
Yeah, the other side's a little easier to see, but it does wrap around both sides. There you go.
yeah.
I
it
mean, that's
basically
a different
combines with
house, but
the same slope right here.
it's the
The
same as the
intention is for
neighbor's.
that shed the line of that shed to continue and to catch a second small gable that sits on top of, they both will sit on top of this new shed, and it's probably.
Right.
not-
So Katie, Brian,
not-
you'll continue to have that with the eave over the side of the house. See how it's not really depicted in these
Yeah. I
images?
see.
So will you continue to have the eave and the shed wrapping all the way around?
Yes, we would make it the same on both sides. So it's the same.
As
I
it
see how it's
exists
not
today?
quite-
Yeah.
I see how it's not quite showing there.
Uh-huh.
Check something else real quick on my, I just want to look at the pictures I have of the house to make sure. Because we typically would match that to both sides, so it's symmetrical.
Uh-huh.
The gables are not exactly the same size though, right?
Right.
Yeah, this one's bigger.
And
Okay,
even,
do we want to keep moving forward with clarifying questions?
Sure.
right, okay, so that's clear. Anyone else have clarifying questions?
I don't think I do.
Katie?
No, that was gonna be my question too, was to clarify what I had the same question.
I don't know
Okay,
if you want to see it. I have a better picture of that side of the house without that tree in the way that you see on the street view.
okay, all right,
Let's
if
do
you
that real
pop
quick.
that in there just as punctuation
let's do
to our
it.
discussion.
See if that works.
Right. So is the fireplace being removed? Because it doesn't show up in the elevations.
It's
that
coming
I-
out.
It's coming out.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Brian. I'd like to open it up now then for any public comment that may have come in.
Okay, so we're now opening public comment section for item number 1. No correspondence was received prior to this meeting. I'll ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that agenda item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone, please press *9 to raise and unraise your hand, and press *6 to unmute or mute your microphone once you're given permission to speak. Do you have any raised hands? I don't see any raised hands for those on Zoom. Are there any other persons who wish to speak on this item number 1? If so, I will provide a few more seconds in case there are others who like to raise their hand to speak on this item. As a reminder, for those joining by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand if you wish to speak on this item. Okay, I don't see any raised hands for this item. So Beverly, please indicate if you would like to close public comment for this item.
I would like to close public comment. And now what we do is we just go into discussion. We may have some questions for you. One thing I'd like to note, just right up front is, Kate, the redesign of the interior space, I think is a tremendous improvement. It's out of our jurisdiction, but I just wanted to compliment you on that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, really well done, I thought. And we may have some discussion points that we will raise for you. Before I raise mine, Katie, Rebecca?
I do actually have one question. I see that the existing home has board and batten in the gables currently. Is all of the exterior siding going to be replaced with this? I guess it's going to be shake. Is this going to be like a hardy board?
Like a hardy shake,
The hardy shake?
it'll be hardy shake. It'll be the front of the home only, not the sides or the back.
Okay, so on the side of the house where there's currently a fireplace and a chimney, there's a vertical board and batten at that gable, and then at the front above the garage, there's vertical board and batten. Is any of that going to remain?
What's the material finish on the sides and the rear of the house?
Because it's not accurately depicted in the elevations, and so that's part of the reason, looking at photos, I'm able to see that there's a consistent board and batten application at the gables, and I see that on the other homes in the neighborhood as well. So I wasn't sure what the intention is, because the proposed front elevation is showing the shake at all locations, but
In the images, it
only on the
looks
front,
like
obviously.
stucco.
It's stucco, but the gable is not.
No, yeah, right. So what, any response? Is that material changing on the facade of the sides and the
So,
rear?
okay, so the existing home has, just to clarify, I guess, the existing home has on the gables, it has board and batten and stucco below. Correct?
Yes,
And you're asking, is it going to be the same when it's completed?
the gable expression, yes.
And on the front gable expression, you're going to hardy shingles.
Yeah, the
That's
front,
what I'm trying to clarify.
yeah, the front would be the hardy shingles. The sides of the home would stay the same. So we would keep the board and batten above and the stucco below.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Okay, well, I guess I can jump in since I'm already talking, and we'll go to the internal discussion. In relation to the board and batten, I do think that if the board and batten is going to remain at the gables on the sides of the home, that it would probably make sense for cohesion for that to remain at any gable expressions that are at the front of the home. It's not super visible, but looking at the photo that Brian shared, it jumped out at me. And so that's something I wanted to mention, particularly if you're going to be removing a chimney there, you're going to be doing some patchwork. So I would say that I would prefer for it to personally be either all shingle or all board and batten at the gables. But obviously, I know that that's a scope creep, but there's going to be some patchwork that has to happen when the chimney is removed. The other comment that I had was the symmetry of the front elevation is a little bit of a challenge for me. I think that having two gables that are almost identical but not quite, and having them create a valley in the middle, it doesn't really give us the primary and secondary roof forms that we're normally looking for with the guidelines, and it feels like it's repetitive, and that's another guideline that we try to stay away from is repetitive roof forms. So obviously having a larger gable and a smaller gable, it's repetition in the form and in the massing, but not in the scale, and having one feel more primary and one feel more secondary. So I felt that there could be some improvements made in the roof design at the front facade. And otherwise, I think that the only question would be about consistency of the material at the gables. But I think that the color palette that has been selected is really nice. I think that the shingle is a great option in a coastal town. And obviously if we're using hardy, then that's going to be, you know, a durable material that is, you know, fire resistant, will perform well. So I think that it's very complementary to the architectural style of the home. So I like the material choices. I wanted to also mention that I was glad to see that the lights are being shown. So we've got 2 lights at the garage, 1 light at the front door, and 1 light at the exterior sliding glass door. I don't recall if I saw a specification for that light. For the design team, is that specified in these drawings?
I don't believe so. Did we ever specify one?
It is specified, it's from Pari Barn.
Oh, we did.
Is it, can you tell me where it is in the drawings?
810.
A10?
810.
Okay. So is that a dark sky fixture?
I do not believe it is necessarily, no.
Okay, so that's something that would need to be addressed. We do need to have dark sky compliant fixtures, and there actually are some that have a similar style to this that they still look kind of like a lantern, but they're shielded and downward facing. So that would be something that would need to be, the specification would need to be switched out on that for one that is similar but dark sky compliant. But otherwise, that was my main thought, was that the biggest concern for me is the roof forms at the front of the project, obviously.
Do you have a suggestion, Katie, as to how that might be altered?
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't really like to make recommendations that increase the cost of a project, obviously, but I think that, in my opinion, the easiest thing that would look the best would be to take the gable off of the garage roof and have that become a hip roof. Because then you've got your primary and your secondary roof form. It's kind of the opposite of what you have right now. You've got kind of a shed roof over the existing front door, and then the gable is over the garage. So I think that would simplify the massing of the roofing at the front and kind of, you know, alleviates having to provide a cricket between the 2 gables. And they don't feel like they're competing as much. Like, it almost starts to feel like the massing of a duplex to me. So I think that that's one suggestion. You know, another option is for the gable, the new gable, to be larger and basically kind of, let me share my screen again, because I draw better than I talk sometimes.
Yeah, if you could demonstrate the hip roof concept as well.
Yeah, so, you know, this one, we would basically get rid of this gable and let the slope that's already existing on that small eave continue up. And you can see it in, let me see if I can go over here again. So this roof would continue up. You just chop off this part of the gable and then make this a hip roof. So I think that
it looks like it would slope higher than.
You think it would go past this peak?
I do.
It's hard to say because I don't think the drawings are really giving us a lot.
Yeah, based on the actual photo, the image from
there is just like California framed on top of the regular roof framing. That might be an option, but it looks like they're not planning on doing any work.
Yeah, I don't think that there was an intention to touch that side of it. So, you know, I think that there's other ways, like making this gable larger is another option, but then, you know, if you're sticking with the same slope, then you're going to end up with something that's a much bigger massing.
Or raising the plate height.
We have to be careful that we don't exceed the overall height
of the roof back here.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So what I've
match
seen,
the ridge height.
Yeah.
And have little knee walls.
Yeah. Another thing that has been done, and I had to do something similar on one of my projects recently, was that basically at the back side, this became a small gable, kind of like this at the ridge.
So,
and then this part would go away, and this would be one larger gable and a smaller gable. So that's just 2 ideas that, you know, off the top of my head. And I think, you know, Rebecca and Beverly, you both might have some suggestions too. And I also wanted to hear if you shared any of these concerns.
Does the slope, Brian, can you tell me if the slope of the new roof matches the slope of the roof at the rear of the house?
So are we talking about the left side where the addition is, or the right side at the garage?
It looks like you match the slope of the garage. Do those two match the slope of
roof?
the rear of the house?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing where are you on the drawing there?
I'm on the elevation.
Oh,
Can you
okay, I'm
see my
sorry, I
screen?
wasn't looking at that part. I was looking at something else. Okay, so
You're asking if
tell me your
the slope
question.
of this
Ask-
roof. is the
Does
same
the
as it.
slope of the existing garage roof and the new roof match the slope of the
This
roof
roof.
at the rear of the house?
Might show us on the survey, actually.
I didn't see slope.
I
markers.
can't say exactly. It looks similar, but I don't, you know what? I don't know for sure, Beverly.
Yeah. So if this were to become a hip, it would just be back to here, basically.
Oops.
Right, if you were
And
to
you would
hit
just
that.
take that gable off. So it doesn't seem like it would be interacting back here. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, a roof plan would be helpful for us to
Oh,
sketch
there you
on.
go. I see that now.
It's a little tougher without the roof plan, but
Yeah.
yeah, so those are two thoughts I had on how that could be accomplished. You can keep a gable here, make this a hip roof so they're not competing.
Uh-huh.
And I think that would keep the size and the massing.
That's probably the simplest adjustment.
Yeah.
So according to my plans, the back roof planes are a slope of 2 and 1, and the front roof planes are a slope of 4 and 1.
Okay, so this roof here at the back is
It's
more
pretty
shallow.
flat. Yeah,
Correct.
Okay.
right. Okay.
Not sure that's correct, but
So if you were to, do Rebecca and Eric understand, if you go to the photo
Yeah.
from the street view?
Hang on, I was just gonna try to look at the satellite view of the roof plan. We'll work with whatever we can.
there you
Yeah,
go.
this
Right,
is- I
if you
think
go
this
to the
is
photo
same.
from the, you would continue the slope up from the front.
From this.
And
yeah.
that would, you wouldn't see the peak there. It would be a hip roof, which is more like a couple of houses down to the
Yeah,
right.
look to the
Just like
right.
this
I
one.
Oh,
think
there you go. It would be just like
houses down
that,
has it,
Yeah,
or your next door neighbor has it.
Yeah.
over the garage.
yeah,
go.
just like that. Mhm.
Which isn't a bad thing. That's a good segue to what I'd like to raise here. When we look at garages, we like to minimize their appearance. And now that you're bringing the other side of the house forward and you're painting the door a dark color, which is good, it minimizes the massing. I was thinking to further minimize the appearance of the garage, this hip roof would do that. It would also satisfy the variety of roof styles on a given home. It would make it a little more interesting. And the color of the garage door, if you match that with your front door,
Oh, that would be nice.
it would aesthetically be very pleasing, but according to the standards, it would also further minimize the appearance of the garage and highlight
I
your
think that's a
entrance
great suggestion, Beverly.
a little bit more. Yeah.
Rebecca, what are your thoughts?
I
Eric?
also like that idea.
Mhm.
The hip roof you mentioned, that idea, Katie, that works for me. I was gonna, my comments, basically, I agree, they're only around this issue. I don't have any other concerns, except for, I mean, I did notice that the addition makes the plan more square, so we're kind of eliminating some facade articulation. And one thought I had was that if this new addition didn't come all the way to the outside wall, but stepped in a little bit shorter at the bottom, at the bottom of the page, yeah, that if that wall stepped in, then
This one right here?
yeah, if this wall stepped up the page, so that
Yeah.
176, if that jogged in, then we would still be maintaining articulation.
Mhm.
And I was kind of going the other way, then that would make the second roof form kind of smaller. I was also just wondering if the new gable needs to extend out over the entry, or if there were two gables, if they could be broken up with some space between them, just because it feels
That valley.
the way they're coming together.
Yeah, and this valley condition isn't going to be solved by the hip roof unless they do some California framing across here.
But the hip roof, that would work for me, or doing something to pull the gables apart so that that gabled expression didn't extend over the entry, and then the entry got a little bit more of its own thing. And I mean, I also don't like to make suggestions that affect plan. I don't know if anyone else on the committee feels strongly about
That affect what?
well, the idea that if you skip to the plan, that they're now kind of losing the articulation on that long side that the building has by building out all the way to the same plane as the existing wall of the house.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of our role though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if bedroom 3 and the office, if they're looking for a north arrow, just call it bottom wall, jogged in a little bit, then we would have the articulation, and then that
Yeah,
would
so
also
if it was like this,
Jogged in that way.
jog in that way,
Yeah.
then that would change the size of the roof also, and might start.
yeah. It
What's,
could even only happen at the office and you could keep the larger bedroom 3 potentially.
well, yeah, that's pretty tough on the,
I would
Roof.
note that those are pretty small rooms to begin with, so it
Yeah.
makes it even tighter.
what's the dimension?
Is it 130 by 176?
121
So
and
10
130.
I mean,
That office is not very big.
Yeah, we understand. I mean, it's always tough because there's kind of a push and pull and a give and take between the guidelines and the functionality of the floor plan and then the exterior design and making them all kind of balance out. I mean, you could even sort of push this a
So
little more
that changes
forward.
it to a 12
is there
foot.
room to bring it forward?
Deep.
Yeah, you could regain space by coming forward, and then it might be kind of nice to not have these be completely in plane.
I don't think they could bring it forward based
Is that
on
where the setback is?
setback. Yeah. Right. I mean, for me, I think if the roof were hipped, that would provide good articulation visually, because it's only a single story, and that sets the garage back.
Has this been checked
Visually.
for setbacks? I mean, I don't see anything actually showing the setbacks. Am I missing that?
Site plan.
Site plan has it.
Which, let's see, this one?
Go earlier.
So this one, the one before this,
Or
A4, right?
Well, that shows it too, current
Well,
site plan. Yeah.
yes, but it's actually not to the property line.
Oh, you're right.
So this might actually be a non-conforming wall. They might not actually be able to build out even that far.
Well, if you go to the site plan, which is earlier on, it says something different.
We've added it.
Overall?
19. You go to the very first,
This one.
yeah, on the right. Yeah, 19.98.
Yeah, and this is to the wall. So yeah, this is actually just under. what's
Under,
conforming, yeah. Which means technically that can't align either
0.2.
by like a smidge.
2 feet.
Yeah.
Are they, Glenn, do they have a variant?
Yeah,
Variance
I'm-
request for that?
Well, that's existing.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to find the information in the submitted plan. Give me a moment. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, well, I'm asking Rebecca because it's the addition is aligned with the,
Surely the addition could be at 20 feet and no one would miss the 0.02.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Um,
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
that would be an issue, but yeah, then we do know that building forward
yeah.
isn't going to work.
yeah, so for me, the single story hip articulation on the garage roof would be enough.
It would be enough for me also. The only other idea I had, because I was coming at the same issue that Katie was to sort of separate the gables so that just the shed continued a little bit between them. And
Oh, I
that
had
was-
another idea. Ha,
Okay, yeah.
be here all day. What if we did something like this? What am I doing? It doesn't really work. I was trying to see how to capture the entry under one gable or the other, and then have
But I-
like this still be a shed roof or something.
But I just don't think that the entry needs to be captured under one of the gables, that it might be more its own thing.
Well, it would be if you hit the garage, it'll be captured under the new gable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you
well,
still
maybe
have
rather-
that kind of weird cricket condition.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe rather than continuing to toss around different ideas we have, we should see if the applicant is amenable.
So Eric, Rebecca, Katie, Brian, what do you think? We've got the board and batten discussion to be consistent on all gables, the light dark to be specified dark sky compliant, the garage door color to be same as the front door, and the articulation of the roof, I guess, is to propose to hip the roof over the garage.
Is this a lower, this doesn't seem like it's drawn accurately. There's 2 plate heights shown.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. Well, it's consistent on the side also. It looks like those are at lower plates.
Should we look at the photo of,
Well, that's what I was just looking at.
Oh.
It should be the same plate height all the way across.
yeah, so maybe you don't have that condition where that's exposed.
Well, I mean,
between-
you'll still have a valley, but once you take off.
You'll have a
the-
valley, but you won't have the ridge there. Yeah, not the ridge. You won't have the
Fascia won't be there.
fascia, yeah. It's not there now.
Right, it comes down.
Right, so I think you'll be
Oh, yeah, the
okay,
fascia there, yeah.
right? So you'll just
Do you want us
Well,
to
I
answer
mean,
that
deal with
question
the
that you had?
valley.
Do you want us to answer the question that you had, Beverly, about?
So, yeah, I
our
would like
input?
for the team to answer the question of the 4 items that we've been discussing. Do you have objection, agreement?
Rebecca and Eric, I want to hear from you first, because it's your, ultimately, it's your home and your,
Yeah,
some of it's your dollars that's gonna have to take to do some of these things. So I'm gonna make sure you understand first what's being asked. And then, or I can offer my input, what I think so far as well.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, we have some storage in the attic and the garage. By changing the roof, do we lose that then storage up there?
Some of it, yes, and towards the front of the garage.
Yeah, there is the potential to reclaim,
but does that mean-
storage here.
Right, but does that mean that this ask involves rebuilding the garage roof, that it's not just, that gable expression is not just framed on top of the actual roof structure? Because that's a pretty
Not-
big ask.
Yeah, this part is the part that's probably California framing, and then this is, yeah.
It's- It's, I don't believe it is. Yeah, it's not a California frame.
So it's, I mean, I guess that's why I was thinking of trying to leave that one alone and making modifications to the new roof, since the new roof has to get built anyway.
is it a scraped ceiling on the addition, or is it a flat ceiling?
Looks like some of it was gonna be vaulted,
It's vaulted back in the kitchen.
but the front, I don't think would be.
That's in the rear of the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Another option would be to just make this a lower slope shed roof, like it is kind of right now, but it would have to be pretty far back.
What are your thoughts, Brian?
Well, I mean, I was kind of liking what you were doing with the garage. I mean, I think it is, I do like breaking it up a little. I didn't, one of the options was to bring the left side of the house in towards the center of the house. I didn't care for that too much. I just didn't think that would, and I think we moved away from that, but that didn't care for that idea too much. But the roof itself, and from the front of the home, I do think, you know, the garage would be one option, of course, but then they lose that storage there, which is pretty important to have good storage, right?
There would be additional
So
storage.
the question is on the,
Thank
on the
you.
left side, can we do something there?
If it's only
And I
making
think what you're saying
storage,
is- I'm sorry, I think what you're saying is you like to see it either pulled back or we can't go ahead of the garage, but pulled back.
Or the ridge
Plane.
of the new roof could align with the main ridge. But I think it should keep the same angle as the one over the garage, so then that would mean a taller plate height there.
Mhm.
You wanna do a little blue beam magic on that idea? Kate?
Yeah.
You got that cut and paste feature.
How high are the ceilings in the addition right now, Kate Handel?
It's Kate Handel,
Kate.
8 feet high.
8 feet high.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
And does that just encompass solely the office and the bedroom?
Correct.
Kind of weird. I don't know what's going on here because that's sloping up higher. But this,
it's not drawn maybe 100% correctly, but
yeah. So if this was to move up, is that helpful for anybody?
Yeah, I think that's gonna mess with the framing big time.
well, but that's new framing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So on the side, it would
And
get-
does that really solve the
Well, it would just make the garage
proportion?
more minor relative to the house.
so this condition would be different. Like this is supposed to be representing that sort of shed.
So Rebecca, you see how much storage you're losing? Not a lot.
Mhm.
As far as that,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, to accomplish minimizing the massing on the garage.
yeah,
And were you going to use the new gable roof attic space as storage?
hadn't thought about it. The current, I don't know where the access point is gonna then be because
You're gonna have to have attic access anyway.
I know, it just
Like
is
a pull down ladder or
currently-
something from the office.
Yeah, that's an easy one to
Yeah.
solve, actually. You can put it in the closet in the bedroom.
It depends on how you want your access. If you wanted a pull down stair or if you wanted to have just an access panel, then those would be different discussions. But
Yeah, but it's solvable. It's
Yeah.
an easier problem to solve. And then you have all that storage space.
Yeah, we could do a pull down in the office where you don't mind having a pull down ladder as much,
Mhm.
like in a bedroom or the main hallway. It's not appealing.
yeah, I think the office would be a better solution than in a bed.
Closet. You don't want to climb around.
We have,
yeah, and you could pull it down from here down this way so that you're coming up at the highest point of the peak.
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's easy to access when you're carrying a lot of things right through the hall there.
That Christmas tree. Yeah.
Plastic.
So,
I mean, cost wise, is that gonna be super expensive to change the garage roof, Brian?
I want to confirm with the structural, because we had a little bit of structural work we were going to do in the front of the garage already.
Yeah,
With some strapping and things like that, that were going to affect some of that. So that may not be too much of an issue. I'd want to confer with the structural engineer to make sure that doesn't affect or trigger something else. Anytime we touch a wall or roof or anything, we have to bring it up to current codes. So because we were not going to originally touch that roof, I just have to double check on that.
yeah, I mean, our neighbor's house looks like that, so as far as if that's, it doesn't really, it's not bothersome, I guess, if we need to do that.
So I think The other thing I want to mention, and I wanted to ask the committee about this, there's a lot of inconsistencies and inaccuracies with the drawings that we're looking at as far as the elevations, missing a roof plan, architectural roof plan. And I wanted to find out if, you know, if their team decides they're okay with making these decisions without talking to structural, is this something that we could even condition given the state of the current drawings?
I think we have to put in as a requirement that the drawings reflect reality more accurately before being approved, but by planning. But I don't think it affects our decision. I mean, I think with the pictures we've been able to pull up, we've been able to come up with some satisfying options. Rebecca?
I agree. I think that I would want these things cleaned up, but I agree with you, Beverly. I think that if the applicants are amenable to changing the garage roof to a hip, putting the board and batten on the gable expression of the front roof, and painting the garage doors to match the front door. Am I missing one, Beverly?
No, we just had to make sure that they provided dark sky compliant
Dark sky compliant lighting.
specification.
Yeah, and then however we want to put the language about making the drawings accurate and coordinated. I would think that we could vote today.
Okay.
Yeah, so what that
Sounds like
means,
it's kind of up to their team then, right?
yeah,
Right, if they want the time to run through and see what the pricing implications are of that proposal.
Yeah,
come
and
back.
structural, you know, I think it's probably a good idea for structural to have some more accurate drawings to work from also, because it's not showing some of the.
it's not showing on the structural, yeah,
Right, right.
some of these things.
Mhm.
Because I think that there probably are solutions that wouldn't involve rebuilding the garage roof, but I don't think that those are solutions that we're gonna come up with today. So I think that it's either a request for a continuance with the understanding that we clearly spell out what's not totally working for us about the way the roof forms are right now, or that we approve conditional on making this change to the roof, which maybe we could make the language loose enough to allow, I don't know. I mean, I think they'd pretty much be tied into the hip roof if that case.
Yeah, so Rebecca and Eric, what this means is requesting a continuance means you'd have to come back to us. And we're pretty confident that you're in good shape if you do these things that we're suggesting. That you don't have to come back to us, but you would need to unfortunately agree to, in this case, the hip roof over the garage. And it would be a condition of your approval by planning before you get into the building.
Yeah, and I do want to just, you know, reiterate that this is going to be a recommendation for approval. This one has to go to planning commission, right, Glenn?
Yeah, this
Right.
will go to planning commission. This,
Yeah.
yours only make a recommendation on this project.
Yeah, so since this, you know, for whatever it's worth, since this is kind of a lengthier review process that does have another public hearing with the planning commission, losing 1 month of time to be able to make sure that you're confident in the numbers behind the decisions, it might be a good idea, but ultimately, you know, that's going to be up to you. You've got a lot of variables in play as far as timing and money and, you know, what you're expecting for construction schedule. So I do want to mention though, that since there is that additional step of planning commission, it kind of draws out the timeline. So it might be a good idea to make sure that you're happy with making these concessions in order to get the recommendation for approval.
So you're suggesting that they come back to us?
I'm not going to ever suggest what other people should do, but if I were in your shoes, I would take that month. I would clean up the drawings, make sure it all works, check the numbers with the structural engineer and see what's the ripple effect of agreeing to this change, and make sure that, you know, you're all happy with it before you go forward with, you know, multi-agency approvals.
So how do you feel about the board and batten to be consistent? Well, so all gable treatments to be consistent. So either board and batten or the hardy shingles.
Just to cut to it, I think we're down to one issue, and that's the garage
That's the
roof.
hip.
Right.
Okay.
The other ones, I don't think are any of, I mean, I think those are all issues that are easily fixable, changing the gables to one style or the other. And all the other issues are pretty easily handled.
Yeah.
So I think we're just down to one, the garage roof, Rebecca and Eric, and it's like,
We're fine with it.
and then we make the change, and I don't think, my guess is they don't want to wait another month, because this is taking a long time already, and
Right.
I think the month is not very exciting.
Yeah, agree.
Okay. All right.
So I think we can go forward with the change, or with the modifications and changes. So refining the garage roof, the light fixtures, the gable roof,
The gable treatment.
gables, make them consistent.
And the garage
The
door
idea of the
color.
board and batten in the front, because I would break it up a little. If that's what if you had a choice of one or the other, shingles on the side's not going to change the look of the house, but gable, the board and batten in front, I think would look kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it would actually help
Mhm.
keep with the consistency of the neighborhood too, and it does kind of break that up, and then, you can keep all of the other board and batten that's on the other existing gables, and there's no cost impact to that.
Right. And then we would also refine the drawings just to more clearly show what's there now.
Right.
Can we clarify? I just want to make sure I understand the painting of the garage door. Is that to accomplish what?
It's the section on minimizing the massing of the garage, and as a sidebar, it's also a design aesthetic. It just seems like a good design choice, but it's really, it helps to minimize the appearance of the garage as the first thing you see in the house.
Doesn't it stand out more if we were to paint that the dark blue?
I think it'll stand out more if it's blue. I really do.
No one else on our street, everyone else on our street has white garage doors. So I think we might stand out more if it's a bright, well, like a dark navy, right? Like,
I guess in the rendering, the door color looks pretty muted. If it is like a bright navy, I agree that would stick out more. With Beverly and Katie, would you be content kicking that one to a suggestion?
Yeah, sure, we can. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be okay with that as a
Yeah.
suggestion. I do want to say though, as far as, what makes something more dominant though, just in color theory and fine art, they always say that your eye goes to the whitest, brightest color first. So your eye is going to go to the garage door first. So, I would say I'm okay with it being a suggestion, but I think it would look really great if that was the same color as the front door.
If the front door is a muted color, like it looks like a kind of slate blue in the render.
Yeah, is that color specified? Because I only see the color specified for the trim and the siding.
It's not a new front
Maybe
door,
that's
right?
maybe. It's a new front door, and the detail is on the what is this called?
Oh, on windows and doors?
Demonstration to scale. It's in there. It's called Navy Masterpiece.
What page is that?
Okay, I see that. It's on the demonstration of scale here. I can share my screen.
And
Is it a new garage door?
Oh no, it's a new front door.
The front door is new, but the garage door is not.
Is the same, okay.
Oh, it's a nice color.
Although it looks different here.
It looks like a very muted color.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome on the garage door, but I'm okay with that being a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can put that as a suggestion. So the requirements are all gable treatments to be consistent, lighting to be specified, hip roof over the garage, and the drawing's accurate for reality. And the suggestion is.
You got the dark sky lighting?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I think also, I don't, there's 3D views that are included in the package, in addition to the demonstration of scale. And
right, those need to be.
To me, it's hardest. It's hard and expensive to get 3D views sometimes to look 100%. accurate. So, I mean, I don't want to push these guys into having to commission a whole bunch more renderings. I think what's critical is that the architectural drawings, the plans and elevations are accurate and consistent.
Yeah, I would just ask that if these are not going to be updated, to remove them from the resubmittal.
That's fine.
Okay,
I have a question, Beverly.
yes.
You said for the garage door, it's a suggestion. What does that mean exactly?
Well, what we do is we write the findings, in other words, the main compliant characteristics of the project, and then we write our requirements, which are the ones I quickly went over just now. And we've moved the color of the garage door to a suggestion, not a requirement.
Okay.
So you can take it or leave it. The requirements need to be fulfilled though.
Okay.
In order to ultimately, get through. Okay, and that's how it works. So I'd like to make a motion. Are we ready?
Oh, do they need to request that we vote or do we go? No, they request the continuance. You know.
They
what
already
you're
did.
doing. Yeah.
All right, I make a motion to recommend approval of this project.
I'll second.
Yeah, I'll do a roll call. Katie Caustic,
Yes.
Barry Garrity,
Yes.
Rebecca Ketkin.
Yes.
Okay, project approved. Congratulations.
Okay, excellent. So we'll write this up and you'll get the document from your planner and you go on to the next gate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations and good luck with your project.
Yeah,
Nice
yeah,
to
it's
see
gonna be
everybody.
beautiful.
Yeah, good to see you, Brian. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank
Okay.
you, Glenn.
No problem. Okay, so that's the last item on the agenda today.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, I make a motion to end our CDRC design review meeting today.
I second that.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Katie Caustic, Rebecca Ketkin,
Yes.
Barry Garrity,
Yes,
Mark Steckmeyer.
Yep.
and there you go, Mark. I'm
Very
passing the pen.
Oh, and my first
Take it.
request,
Take it.